Chapter 329. Jiang Xiu didn't pay any attention to him. His gaze was fixated on something in the distance. That should be a missile. Judging from the current situation, it should be a large-scale attack by martial cultivators against exotic beasts. A missile like that would kill at least a few of them. He could even see martial cultivators fighting with exotic beasts in the streets. Seeing that Jiang Xiu ignored her, Li Yan said angrily, "I'm talking to you. Are you deaf?" Jiang Xiu turned around and looked at her coldly. In a place like this where resources were scarce, food was life. Even in the safety zone where resources were abundant, no one would use a commanding tone to ask for food like she did. "Why should I give it to you?" Li Yan was stunned. She didn't expect that Jiang Xiu would dare to refute her. Moreover, what he said was so reasonable. She suppressed the anger in her heart. "Don't you just want money? I can buy it from you." "How much? Is 1,000 enough?" Jiang Xiu sneered. "You can go out and look. If you're lucky, you can find a shop that's still open or a supermarket that's left behind." "You," Li Yan said. "Don't forget that I asked you to follow me." Jiang Xiu said, "I only know that I paid 100,000 yuan." Li Yan was so angry that her chest rose and fell violently, but she couldn't say anything. Jiang Xiu was a customer like her. She was just giving face to the tour guide, Chun, and it had nothing to do with Jiang Xiu. She turned to look at her bodyguards and asked, "Did you bring food?" A bodyguard said, "We only brought water." In the center of Harbin, there was a restaurant that had been kept intact. It was owned by a strong man. There was plenty of food, water, and electricity. She had planned to stay there for a night and check out the situation inside. She would come back the next day, but now, it's just one night of hunger. What's the big deal? He took down some billboards in the mall. There was a lot of wood inside. He piled it up and made a fire. He found a pot and boiled water. Jiang Xiu even cooked instant noodles. Li Yan's bodyguard came over and said, "Brother, sell some. The price is negotiable." Jiang Xiu shook his head. 10,000. 10,000 for a bowl of instant noodles. Jiang Xiu said, "Do you think I'm someone who lacks that 10,000 yuan?" 100,000. The bodyguard offered a fantastic price. The cost of Jiang Xiu's trip was covered by a bowl of instant noodles, but Jiang Xiu still shook his head. "I won't sell it for any price." The bodyguard's face turned cold. "Brother, don't be so shameless. This is the son of the Moonlight Financial Group on Treasure Island. He has close ties with many leaders, and has close ties with many biological groups. Brother, don't make a mistake." Jiang Xiu couldn't be bothered with him and started to eat his noodles. "You." Li Yan was so angry that she stood up and said, "I think you're refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. You don't want face, do you? Beat him for me." The tour guide Chen hurriedly ran over and said, Miss Li, why do you have to make a big deal out of it? If he doesn't want to sell, there's no reason for us to force him to sell." Li Yan said, "I won't force him to sell. I'll just rob him." In a place where even killing someone wasn't punished, robbing something was nothing. In this place, the most primitive side of human beings was completely revealed. The tour guide Chen said, "Miss Li, it's not safe here. If you really make a noise and attract the beasts, you'll have to bear the consequences. We won't risk our lives because of your actions. I said before that you have to listen to our arrangements once we're inside." "Are you trying to scare me?" A strange and somewhat familiar beast-like cry sounded. Li Yan's voice suddenly stopped. She heard the sound of jumping outside. These exotic beasts were very powerful. They could jump several meters with a single jump, and could jump directly from one abandoned building to another. "Quick, put out the fire." Director Chen kicked the fire a few times and scattered it. The fire was extinguished, and the mall immediately darkened. "This doesn't make sense. This is the outer area." The tour guide's expression changed drastically. "It's revenge." Jiang Xiu's voice sounded faintly in the darkness. "The missiles just now should have killed a lot of exotic beasts, so they're organizing for revenge. That makes sense." Tour guide Chen agreed with Jiang Xiu's words. "Let's not talk about these useless things. What should we do now?" Li Yan's voice was trembling. Her bodyguards surrounded her to protect her. The mall has already been surrounded, tour guide Chun and the others said with some hope. I hope the exotic beasts won't find us. The mall had a total of 7 floors, and the interior was very large. Those who had shopped in the mall before knew that it was easy for people who weren't familiar with the mall to get lost. Moreover, many parts of the mall had collapsed, making it even harder to find. Humans could still find the area according to the English words on the walls, but exotic beasts weren't easy to find. Then what if they find us? Tour guide Chen said. Then Jiang Xiu shook his head gently and said, they've already found us. The exotic beasts in the surroundings were gathering around them. They should already know where they were. Don't be an alarmist here. I should have beaten you up just now, Li Yan said angrily. The exotic beasts approached very quickly. In the blink of an eye, the surroundings were filled with dots of green light, just like the eyes of wolves in the dark. Those were the eyes of exotic beasts. They could see in the dark like wolves. What is that? Li Yan's voice was trembling. It's an exotic beast. Jiang Xiu threw a lighter on the billboard. It lit up immediately, and the mall regained its light. Looking around, upstairs, downstairs, on the elevators, and even on the chandelier, there were dozens of exotic beasts densely packed together. Oh my God! Li Yan, the bodyguards, and the tour guide's faces were as pale as snow. It's over. Roar! One of them stepped closer. It was Jiang Xiu's first time seeing an exotic beast. It was tall and different from the exotic beasts in the Xianwu continent. It looked like a lion with scales, and its tail was fluttering in the wind. It's a general-level exotic beast. Its combat power is over 1,000. Tour guide Chen asked. How many exactly? 3361. Hearing this, everyone present sucked in a breath. With a combat power of more than 1,000, they might have a chance if they worked together. But with more than 3,000, there was no hope at all. What should we do? Li Yan was so scared that her face was pale. Roar. The exotic beast roared crazily at them. And the other exotic beasts roared as well. They angrily rushed toward Jiang Xiu and the others. They wanted to avenge their dead companions. Jiang Xiu and the others screamed in horror when they saw the exotic beasts pouncing toward them. The tour guide, Chen De, shouted, Are we going to fight it out with them? He reached out and pulled out the long knife on his back. Li Yan's bodyguards raised their machine guns and fired. Bang, bang, bang. The exotic beast was killed in the air and fell to the ground. This aroused the ferocity of the other exotic beasts. Nangong Ko, and a dozen other people were resting in a ruin not far from here. When they heard the gunshots in the distance, they all sat up in shock. One of the men, who was wearing a camouflage uniform, said, It's gunshots. The strange beasts were killed today, and they must have organized a counterattack. Some unlucky guy was caught. It's from the mall across the street. Nangong Ko said, Give me the binoculars. She quickly took the binoculars and went to the edge of the ruin. Through the binoculars, she could see the continuous gunfire in the mall. The number is amazing. I estimate that there are 50 or 60 exotic beasts. 50 or 60. There must be a general-level exotic beast. It's beyond our ability, a man behind her said. There's nothing we can do. Miss, should we stay here, or move? Move. Nangong Ko's words suddenly stopped, and her heart suddenly skipped a beat. She fixed her eyes on a young man who was surrounded by strange beasts. She couldn't believe her eyes, but when she took a closer look, she found that the young man was indeed her enemy. Why is he here? This be asterisk starred. Why did he come to Harbin alone? Does he want to die? Hurry up, go to the other side and save them. Her team members were stunned. Miss, there are too many exotic beasts there. Some of them are general-level exotic beasts. It's beyond our ability. Hurry up and save them. Nangong Ko jumped out of the building that was 3 stories high. Her body was as light as a swallow's, and she landed on the collapsed wall of the 2nd floor. Then, she used it as leverage to land steadily on the ground, and ran toward the shopping mall in the distance. Miss! Hurry up, follow her. Her team members didn't know what to do. They had to protect Nangong Ko, so they had to jump down and catch up with Nangong Ko. Chapter 330. When the members of the Nangong family arrived, the gunshots had stopped. One of them said nervously, "Miss, even if we are going to save him, we still need to make some arrangements." Nangong Ko didn't stop, but rushed into the shopping mall. The members of the Nangong family were shocked. Miss Koa. After all, the strange beasts weren't human beings, so they didn't know how to set up a defense outside. Nangong Ko had already rushed into the shopping mall. The members of the Nangong family were helpless, and one of them shouted, "Gunmen, cover us. The rest of you follow us." The shopping mall was silent, and the fire was still burning. Except for a few corpses, there was no one left in the mall. The battle had already ended. Nangong Ko stopped and looked at the scene in surprise. Where are they? The shopping mall was only a few hundred meters away from the place where they had rested. With their speed, they should have arrived in less than a minute. How could the strange beasts and humans all disappear in such a short time? Did I see wrongly? There's no reason for that. The strange beast's blood was still flowing, and the bullet shells on the ground were still warm. No, I didn't see it wrong. The members of the Nangong family also arrived, and they were also surprised. Where are they? It's so strange. How could the strange beasts and humans all disappear in the blink of an eye? The man who seemed to be the leader of the Nangong family asked, "Miss Ko, or did you meet someone you know just now?" The members of the Nangong family also looked at her in surprise. Nangong Ko shook her head with a strange expression. Her relationship with Jiang Xiu couldn't be exposed, and she was too nervous just now. However, at this moment, she was still very nervous, because she didn't know what was going on with Jiang Xiu. She walked to the side, where there was a backpack. She opened it and checked it. There was some food in the backpack, and the members of the Nangong family smiled when they saw it. Nangong Ko threw the food to them casually, and there were also some underwear in the backpack, which seemed to be the brand that Jiang Xiu liked to wear. "Okay, wallet." She took it out, and there were some bank cards in it. Black card. Seeing this, Nangong Ko heaved a sigh of relief. That guy was poor, so how could he have gotten a black card? Nangong Ko hurriedly took out his ID card, which was a picture of a timid young man. His name was Jiang Xiu, and his address was also in Jiang City. Jiang Xiu received his ID card when he was 16 years old. It had been more than 3 years since then, and he was in his adolescence. Moreover, he looked too similar to Jiang Xiu. "It's really him," Nangong Ko said. His appearance had changed so much, so could it be that he had undergone plastic surgery? The captain walked over and asked, "Miss Ko, do you know him?" Jiang Xiu, what a familiar name. Upon hearing this, Nangong Ko's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that they had heard about my relationship with Jiang Xiu? After all, I was engaged to him before. That shouldn't be the case, as only my family members know about this. "Jiang Luo is Jiang Xiu, isn't he?" A warrior at the side said. "No way, did we meet the most powerful man in Hua Nation here?" The captain couldn't believe it. There are at least 10,000 people named Jiang Xiu in Hua Nation. It's just a coincidence. Nangong Ko frowned and said, "His name is indeed Jiang Luoxia, but he has nothing to do with Mr. Jiang. He's just a student. Oh, he knows some spells. Let's look around. We must find him." Remembering that Jiang Xiu knew spells, she wondered if he had cast spells to avoid the strange beasts. Otherwise, such a strange situation wouldn't have happened. "Come and see, there are many dead bodies here." When they ran over, they saw the bodies of 3 or 4 strange beasts piled up in front of the elevator. What? This elevator still has electricity. He must have escaped. On another road, a group of people was running. Director Chen had been here for many years. He had arranged an escape route for the guests to rest in the mall. "No, I can't run anymore." Li Yin was so tired that she was panting. No matter how intelligent the strange beasts were, they wouldn't have thought that humans had such a magical thing as an elevator. "We can't stop. We have to go to the next stronghold. The strange beasts are counterattacking today," Tour Guide Chen said with a serious expression. Li Yin said, "No, I can't run anymore. Let your bodyguard carry you. Hurry." The group of people walked on the dark streets. After running for a few more miles, the bodyguard said, "Why do I feel like we're still walking toward the center of Han Nation? Aren't we going back? Tour guide Chen said. It's too dangerous outside. The second stronghold is in front. The strange beasts were counterattacking outside. It might be safer to go inside. Hurry up. When we reach the next stronghold, we have to take the time to rest. In the horizon ahead, a soaring arrow soared into the sky. Under the pitch-black night sky, the white light was exceptionally bright. With a boom, it reached its peak and exploded. Someone sent a signal. After cell phones couldn't be used, primitive methods came in handy. It's in the direction of Immortal Land Mountain. Before he could finish his sentence, a missile glided across the sky, aiming in the direction of the signal. Then there was a loud boom, and the entire ground shook. Flames soared into the sky, and the heat could be felt from afar. This signal was the target's location. Someone had sacrificed themselves to make an accurate location for the government forces. They started attacking during the day, and the strange beasts counterattacked. They carried out another attack at night. Jiang Xiu muttered. Something must have happened inside. A thin man who had gone to open the path ahead turned back and said, something big happened ahead. A large number of powerful people from biological groups and mercenaries are rushing to Immortal Land Mountain. The man panted and said, I heard that a treasure of the gods is about to appear. A bright bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. A huge black vortex could be vaguely seen. The lightning slowly faded into it. A natural phenomenon. The employer Li Yan, who was lying on top of the bodyguard, said, Quick, let's go. If we're lucky, it might land on me. Things of the gods are obtained by those who are fated. It's a great fate that I'm here today. She imagined that after she got the treasure, she would return to Taiwan and be proud in front of her family. She would become the most important member of her family in one fell swoop. Quick, quick! The tour guide Chun and his brothers exchanged glances. They saw a strong desire in each other's eyes. In the face of such a huge temptation, they were all tempted. Let's go. Immortal Land Mountain is the safest place now. It's full of humans. The strange beasts can't do anything. Isn't your goal there? After making up their minds, the group rushed to Immortal Land Mountain. Their judgment was right. A large number of people were rushing to Immortal Land Mountain. It felt like a general attack by humans. Along the way, there were cars roaring. They even saw tanks. So many powerful people from biological groups. Pantheon Biological Group, Skyline Biological Group, Hongming Biological Group. All the major biological groups had summoned their people. All the mercenaries and government troops had also arrived. It was a gathering of people from all over the world. Damn it, we can finally fight the strange beasts. The tiger of Liaodong. Someone shouted. As far as the eye could see, a man stood on a building more than 20 meters tall. He stood with his hands behind his back. His clothes fluttered in the wind as he looked around. Xiao Yuanzhan? At this moment, the vortex in the sky was even more obvious. Lightning kept flashing inside it, as if it was going to rush out of it. Roar. A huge beast let out a deafening roar on the peak of the mountain. The roar spread out and could be heard everywhere in Harbin. Beast King. Seeing the Beast King that was as huge as a rock in the dark, the humans who had rushed over felt a sense of guilt and helplessness. What a terrifying roar. Nangong Ko-er and the others, who were still searching near the shopping mall, were shocked when they heard the roar. They had heard this roar once before. It was the roar of the Beast King. Every time the Beast King roared, something big must have happened. The battle between humans and strange beasts would become extremely fierce. The Beast King should be calling back the strange beasts that were scattered. Nangong Ko-er shook her head and said, No, we've fallen into a trap. The outermost area is full of strange beasts, and Immortal Land Mountain is also full of strange beasts. We've been surrounded by them. Are they going to attack us from both inside and outside? Quick, let's go to Immortal Land Mountain too. I don't think they're calling back the strange beasts, but clearing them along the way. Chapter 331. As they approached the Immortal Land Mountain, they saw armament cultivators and mercenaries everywhere. This gave Jiang Xiu and the others a sense of security. Many places were on fire, so visibility was high. The main reason was that there were many government troops here. With someone to uphold justice, they felt more at ease. They found an empty space to rest while paying attention to the situation. Tour guide Chun and the others looked nervous and serious. This was a matter of life and death. However, it was rare to have such an opportunity. People were greedy. Jiang Xiu said, "Is there a map of the mountain?" He was worried that there was a formation left behind on the mountain. It would be best if there was a 3D map, so he could judge whether it existed or not. Tour guide Chun said, "There isn't. This mountain is very strange. The surroundings are always dark. It's also dark during the day. The photos taken are very blurry." Jiang Xiu's heart skipped a beat. He had read an article before. Traveling to the North Pole, the Mirror Volcano, where the sun and moon do not shine, there is a dragon fire. The Mirror Volcano? The situation was very similar. There should be dragon fire here. Dragon fire was not on the same level as earth fire. It was above the mortal world and could burn everything. There was nothing in this world that it could not burn. If one could obtain it, it would be like the US having nuclear weapons during World War II. The world had really changed. Such a heaven-defying thing actually appeared here. No wonder the heavens would send down divine punishment. Tour guide Chen said, "I came here before the year. At that time, the mountain shone. Many people thought that it was a miracle. At that time, they took aerial photos. Most of the area was shrouded in thick fog. They could only see deer running inside. It was very mysterious. At that time, we guessed that there was an immortal in the mountain, but now it seems that there isn't. If there was an immortal, how could it be occupied by the Beast King?" Jiang Xiu sneered in his heart. Of course there was no immortal. If there was an immortal, the divine punishment would not have attacked the mountain but the immortal. However, the thick fog must have covered the heaven-defying things in the mountain. He guessed that there were many spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits. The major biological groups sent people into Ha City, not just for leveling up. They probably wanted to split the spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits on the mountain. Anyone who knew would want to share. It was the same for the government army. In the past, the leftists of the Hua Nation definitely wouldn't allow others to interfere. However, the situation was different now, and social unrest was already foreseeable. If the government's military was still so aggressive, it would definitely incite public resentment. That was why the major biological corporations and mercenaries were allowed to enter. It's starting. The people who were originally lying paralyzed on the ground and resting suddenly stood up and looked at the immortal mountain in the distance. The slightly decent mountain path had long been dyed red with blood. There was blood from both humans and strange beasts. Killing happened here every day. The government forces had used missiles to bombard the mountain many times, but it seemed that the structure of the mountain was different from other mountains. It was terrifyingly hard, and even cannons could not destroy it. This made the government army feel powerless. Unless they used nuclear weapons, but under international pressure, no one would dare to use nuclear weapons, not to mention attacking a place within their own territory. Therefore, they could only rely on the so-called underground forces. That day, the big boss came to Jiang Xiu's house and asked him to take an important position in the military and spread his martial arts. This was a big incentive. This was also within Jiang Xiu's expectations. The existence that had experienced divine punishment was actually not something that could be shaken by ordinary cannonballs. He even suspected that nuclear weapons that could destroy the earth might not be able to move this mountain. Xieting, what you hoped for has finally happened. The saintess would rather burn herself to death than let the world she lived in descend. This showed how deep the hatred in her heart was. Boom! In the distance, a series of missiles with long flaming tails fell towards the mountain. One after another, the flames from the missiles formed a beautiful parabola in the sky. It was very beautiful. Boom, 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 Li Yan said excitedly. The government forces in the mainland are starting to bombard the mountain. They're really rich. I heard that the cost of each missile is more than 100 million. 1237, 700 million. If this was our treasure island, who knows how much pressure the commander would have to face? His words were considered polite, but his face was full of disdain. The Taiwanese always had a deep prejudice against the Chinese. They always felt that they were awesome, but if you were poor, you would be rich, and if you were rich, you would be a foolish tycoon. Although bombing the mountain was one way to occupy it, it was also a waste of money. If this goes on, the treasures inside will also be destroyed after the beasts are killed, right? Li Yan's tone was as if the treasures were already hers. Jiang Xiu said, they won't. The place where the fog was thick should be where the aura emitted by the spiritual fruits and spiritual herbs were condensed. The heat and destructive power of the missiles would be completely blocked. What do you know? Li Yan was very disdainful of Jiang Xiu. You're only a two-digit piece of trash. Hee, tour guide Chen interrupted. Brother Jiang, you're still young. I feel that you have a lot of potential. When we were surrounded by the exotic beasts, even those of us who had prepared an escape route in advance were so scared that we were trembling all over. You, on the other hand, were calm and composed. It's this ability to remain calm that will give you the upper hand when facing the enemy. Jiang Xiu didn't think much of it. For more than 3,000 years, fighting was the main joy of his life. No matter how calm you are, it's useless if you don't have the strength. Li Yan shook her head. The first round of bombing had already ended. Although it was quite far away, the tremors of the earth and the smell of smoke in the air made people feel as if they were already on the battlefield. The tour guide Chen said. In addition to the beasts, not long ago, someone said that they saw a huge white snake that could ride the clouds and mist. It disappeared into the mountains. Jiang Xiu's eyes flashed when he heard this. He immediately thought of the snake demon god in Hangzhou. She had extremely high intelligence. Since she could escape under Jiang Xiu's nose with the help of the celebrities in the manor, she should be very familiar with human society. Not only were there treasures in the Spirit Mountain, but it was also an excellent place for her to recuperate. There's a way to heaven, but you don't take it. There's no door to hell, but you break into it. The corner of Spiritual Cultivation's mouth raised. Last time, the snake demon god escaped, which he regarded as a great shame. This time, he must move back. Boom, 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 boom. There was a roar in the sky. Everyone looked up and saw 3 fighter jets flying from the sky. The ground bombing was enough. With the current level of technology, missiles could hit anywhere in the mountains. Fighter jets couldn't be sent out. Now that they were sent out, they shouldn't be used for fighting, but mainly for reconnaissance. It seemed that they were really going to launch a general attack. Roar! The Beast King roared angrily when he saw the fighter jets. He would never allow humans to set foot on the territory that he had occupied. With this roar, the beasts outside seemed to have received some kind of signal. They sped up the cleanup operation outside, and quickly shrank from the border of Harbin to the Spirit Mountain. The Beast King moved. It was like a small mountain. When it ran, it stepped on the air and suddenly jumped up. In an instant, it was more than 100 meters high. The form of the Beast King was completely revealed in the sky. Its front claws slapped at the fighter jets. The claws of its forelimbs were half the size of the fighter jets. Boom! The fighter jets were smashed into pieces as if they were made of mud. The pilots didn't even have time to parachute. Boom! 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 2 more shots were fired, and the other 2 fighter jets were shot down. Before they could get close to the Spirit Mountain and send the data of the missile attack back to the headquarters, they were sacrificed heroically. The onlookers below were all shocked. It's too powerful. Can humans still deal with it? When the leaders of the control department of the government army saw this scene, they were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out. My God, what kind of monster is this? It's so powerful. At this time, a person came to everyone's mind. The tiger of Liaodong, Xiao Yuanzhan. At this moment, he was standing on the roof of an abandoned high-rise building far away. Before this, the Beast King of the first beast tide in Liaodong was defeated by him. Now it was time for him to make a move again. The crowd below looked up. Let's do it. The disciples behind Xiao Yuanzhan were also very excited. They were waiting for their master to make a move. This time, not only did they want to defeat the Beast King, but they also wanted to kill it completely. Now it was time for the final battle. Chapter 332. Looking at the Beast King in the air, Xiao Yuanzhan's expression turned serious. This Beast King's life level should have evolved once compared to the last time. It would be even more difficult to destroy it. The fragments of the exploded fighter jet fell down with sparks. It was a mess. The Beast King also landed heavily. It looked over and roared. Its voice was like thunder, coming down from the celestial mountain. I will descend upon the tribe here. Those who dare to violate the rules will be killed without mercy. Oh my God. The Beast King spoke in human language. It was shocking. Everyone present was stunned, and at a loss for what to do. The Beast King spoke. Li Yan, tour guide Chen, and the others all opened their mouths. Their eyes were filled with fear. It was already shocking enough that it spoke. What it said made everyone present feel a chill down their spines. It wanted to occupy this place. Was it trying to compete with the humans? It was too unbelievable. After the shock, the military chief slammed the table. Bastard, a mere beast wants to occupy this place. Tell Xiao Yuanzhan that he must kill this Beast King. Yes. The chief's skirt trembled. We must kill it at all costs. If we don't start well, everyone will follow suit. It will be a disaster for the country. The consequences will be unimaginable. A voice came from the walkie-talkie of the person behind Xiao Yuanzhan. After the conversation he replied, Master, the order has been given. We must kill this Beast King. Xiao Yuanzhan also knew the current situation. If the Beast King was not killed, there would be no chance in the future. Its evolution speed was much faster than that of humans. There was an official data that was not released. After the beast died, more than 1.7 million people were killed or injured. When the data was released, the entire government was shocked. The people on Diaoyu platform felt their hair stand on end. The meeting room exploded on the spot. But they had to suppress the data and announce a small part of the data to the public. They also blamed everything on the earthquake. Now they wanted to claim the land as the Beast King. Kill. Xiao Yuanzhan roared. The eyes of the martial cultivators below were already red. The crowd was agitated. This was a war between races. Everyone was angry and started attacking the celestial mountain. Bastard, you're talking about me. Xiao Yuanzhan roared and suddenly kicked away a collapsed wall beside his feet. At the same time, he squatted slightly and shot out like an arrow. Stepping on the broken wall, he once again soared into the air and rushed towards the Beast King at the top of the mountain. Master is mighty. Grandmaster Xiao has made his move. The Almighty's appearance and aura really made people excited. Countless pairs of eyes stared at him and cheered for him. In the command center, the bureau chief had tears in his eyes when he saw this. We humans in Cathay also have heaven-suppressing geniuses. It's Xiao Yuanzhan. Nangong Ko. Earth's team's judgment was undoubtedly correct. They didn't encounter any obstacles on their way to the Immortal Mountain, and they smoothly arrived in the vicinity. They used their binoculars to see Xiao Yuanzhan flying to the top of the mountain, and asked Gushin to kill the Beast King. We must kill that beast. The team leader next to Nangong Ko gnashed his teeth in anger, and he hoped that Xiao Yuanzhan would be able to kill the Beast King. Many of their Nangong family's disciples had been killed, and his younger brother had been killed by the Beast King. The Beast King disappeared. Suddenly, someone shouted and put down the binoculars. When he realized that he couldn't see the Beast King with the binoculars, he hurriedly raised the binoculars again, but the Beast King was nowhere to be seen. At this time in the military command center, the image of the Beast King on the screen was extremely blurry. The bureau chief angrily said, "How could this be? Is the signal being disrupted?" No, the Beast King is too fast. The Beast King's speed exceeded the speed of sound, and even the video became blurry. It was so fast that it even disappeared on the screen. They fought. They couldn't see clearly, but they could see that Xiao Yuanzhan's body was emitting a strong aura, which swept the surrounding trees. A white mane that resembled a tiger's hair grew on the left side of his face. This was the evolved form of a demigod. Boom. Two figures fell into the dense forest below. The people below couldn't see them clearly, and only the satellites could barely lock onto them. They could see two figures running in the dense forest, intertwining with each other, and they would separate after a short while. Wherever they passed, the huge trees were easily knocked down as if they were made of tofu. and smoke and dust flew everywhere. Boom! A ray of light flew out from the mountain and was thrown towards the waist of the Beast King. This time everyone saw it again. However, what they saw through their binoculars was not what they wanted to see. Xiao Yuanzhan's body was firmly pressed down by the Beast King's forelimbs. The clothes on his body had been completely torn apart, revealing his muscles. There were gray marks on his muscles, and they seemed to be emitting light, giving him extraordinary physical strength. Pung! His body crashed heavily onto the ground. If it was someone with such a high height and such a high speed, they would have been smashed into a pile of mud. However, he only spat out a mouthful of blood, and suddenly bounced back. The Beast King's forelimbs landed heavily on the ground, and the entire ground shook. It immediately chased after Xiao Yuanzhan. The Beast King's speed was really too fast, and it broke through the sound barrier, letting out a terrifying roar. Seeing it rush through the sky, its body was flowing with a white luster, and it was like a sharp blade. The surrounding trees were immediately cut into pieces. This kind of terrifying destructive power could not help but make people tremble in fear. The martial artists below had already started to attack the mountain, and some of them were extremely powerful. They had to deal with more ordinary beasts, but when they encountered general-level beasts, their skin was so thick that even bullets couldn't penetrate it. The situation isn't good. Nangong Ko was able to follow Xiao Yuanzhan's fight with the Beast King with her superhuman senses. Xiao Yuanzhan couldn't fight back at all, as his strength was far inferior to his opponent's, and his speed was also crushed. The only thing he could rely on was his fighting skills and intelligence. However, the Beast King's intelligence was not lower than that of a human's. If the Beast King can't be killed, we will definitely lose this battle. If such an invincible existence was free to fight, it would be a nightmare for everyone present, and it would be a complete massacre. The military chief on the command platform saw the situation more clearly than Nangong Ko, and the others, and many staff officers also frowned, as they had a premonition that they were in big trouble. Compared to before, this Beast King seemed to have evolved, and it was much more powerful than before. I shouldn't have let this beast go last time. Although Xiao Yuanzhan had a slight advantage at that time, there were so many beasts around, and it could be said that he was very lucky to be able to force the Beast King to retreat. It was almost impossible for him to kill the Beast King. It could only be said that Xiao Yuanzhan might have had a chance to win in a one-on-one fight, but it was only a win. In a real life and death battle, the Beast King's endurance and survivability were much stronger than Xiao Yuanzhan's, and this was determined by its genes. Roar! The Beast King roared, and the beast's aura surged. Xiao Yuanzhan, an old opponent, was crushed, and he chased after Xiao Yuanzhan all the way. At this moment, Xiao Yuanzhan's body was covered with wounds and scratches, and his chest was even lacerated, and even his bones could be seen. He was gasping for breath, and if this continued he would definitely lose. Everyone who saw this scene felt a chill run down their spines. Was the alien race rising? They were so powerful that even Xiao Yuanzhan was no match for them. These beasts were incomparably cruel, and they had evolved in such a short time. If they were allowed to evolve again, how could Hua Nation, and even the entire human race, resist them? What was the future of humanity? Nangong Ko's expression was incomparably serious, and she immediately said, "Did you all see that person's ID card?" Everyone in the team nodded. Good, let's immediately split up and look for him. 10 minutes, if we can't find him after 10 minutes, then we'll give up and immediately return here. We'll prepare to retreat. In the current situation, they could only leave this place and leave Ha City. If they stayed here, there would only be one result, and that was to be buried together with those martial cultivators and mercenaries who bravely defended the dignity of humanity. Yes. After the team heard this, they immediately scattered in all directions. According to their experience, Jiangxiu wouldn't be very close to the mountain, and would definitely be in the periphery. At this time, those who dared to rush close to the mountain were all powerhouses, and Jiangxiu was obviously not one of them. Can the powerhouses of this continent win? Li Yan asked. Xiao Yuanzhan won once, and if he can win once, he can win again. The tour guide Chen was full of confidence. Chapter 333. However, Jiang Xiu shook his head and said, "It's obvious that Xiao Yuanzhan is going to lose. Moreover, his abilities are one level lower than his opponents. His chances of winning are very low to begin with. You guys have earned quite a lot of money here. Leave now. Don't throw your lives away." Tour guide Chun earned a lot of money, but he was quite responsible and reliable. There were too many people in society who did things half-heartedly. He had set up a stronghold and built an escape route. Jiang Xiu had a good impression of him, and thus advised him against it. Treasures of the world did exist here, but they wouldn't be obtained by fate like in myths and legends. Instead, they would be obtained by experts. This was the conclusion he came to after fighting for treasures for over 3,000 years. However, before tour guide Chen could say anything, Li Yan spoke up. "I can't even see clearly with binoculars." "You don't even have binoculars. How can you see clearly? You're spouting nonsense here. I think you're just trying to scare us away so that we won't fight with you for the celestial treasure. You're dreaming." Jiang Xiu was speechless. "You people from the mainland are really scheming," tour guide Chen said in a low voice. "Let's wait for a while. Half of our brothers have died after leaving our hometown. No matter how much money we have, we won't have enough to split. Let's see if there's a chance." Not far away, a human figure was moving through the abandoned loft. It was very safe here. The mutated beasts were either on the mountain or in the periphery. Moreover, there was a huge difference between humans and mutated beasts. It was easy to recognize them and there was no fear. The battle on the mountain became even more intense. Xiao Yuanzhan retaliated, unleashing the last of his strength. His eyes turned red, emitting a fierce red light, and a tiger's roar came from his throat. There was a saying in the underground of Liaodong that Xiao Yuanzhan was actually a mixed blood, a mix of Chinese and Russian. However, there were also people who said that Xiao Yuanzhan was actually a tiger. It was said that he was brought out from the snow by a Siberian tiger. There were many different opinions, but in short, his background was mysterious. Later on, he followed Bearded Man during the chaotic era, and quickly made a name for himself. He was a well-known underground expert in Liaodong. Later on, he was engrossed in martial arts cultivation, and rarely came out. However, his influence remained in Liaodong, and he was involved in overseas smuggling and arms businesses. Roar, roar. This roar was like a tiger's roar in the forest. He retaliated fiercely. "Die, you bastard." The surface of the muscles all over his body had already been dyed red with blood, making him look exceptionally ferocious and terrifying. He directly rushed over, the light in his eyes bursting out. Wherever he passed, the surrounding trees were all blown askew. "Ignorant humans!" Roar. The Beast King also let out a terrifying roar. His speed was even faster than Xiao Yuanzhan's, and his body was even larger. Boom. The two forces hadn't really collided yet, but the two streams of air had already collided. The intense friction caused a bright light to erupt, and the sound of the explosion was even more ear-piercing than that of a cannonball. Oh my God! When the armament school saw this scene, they were indescribably shocked. Was this still a battle between humans and beasts? It was comparable to a battle between gods. Boom! A human figure was thrown out from the strong light. Judging from the figure, it was Xiao Yuanzhan. The huge Beast King behind him had already charged over. Not good. In the command room, the military chief's expression changed greatly. Although the satellite video wasn't very clear, he could roughly see that Xiao Yuanzhan was at a disadvantage in a head-on clash. The strength displayed by the Beast King had already exceeded his imagination. "Chief, this isn't good." The staff officer at the side was pale. "Yes, Chief. We can't place all our bets on Xiao Yuanzhan." Another staff officer at the side also agreed. Once Xiao Yuanzhan is defeated, with the nature of this Beast King, he will definitely massacre everyone present and take revenge on us humans. When that time comes, let alone City Ha, the surrounding cities, even the entire Liaodong. He didn't dare to continue. The consequences were too terrifying. The chief said, "Then what do you think we should do?" Right now, they could only place their hopes on Xiao Yuanzhan. There was no other way. If even Xiao Yuanzhan can't win, who else can? The staff officer said. I once heard Master Xiao say that he highly admires someone. He said that even 2 Xiao Yuanzins might not be a match for this person. The chief's eyes lit up. "Oh," the staff officer said. "Jiang Luoxia from Jiangnan. This person is known as the strongest person in China." The strongest person in China? The old chief's hair was already white. He didn't know much about the underground. To be precise, he didn't care about it, and even felt disgusted. However, after Xiao Yuanzhan defeated the Beast Tide, his view of the underground changed greatly. Then what are we waiting for? Why don't we ask him to come and save us? The staff officer said. Jiang Luoxia is known as the strongest person in China. His status is extremely respected. It's not that easy to invite him. However, I heard from a classmate in the capital that Dio Yutai wants to invite him to take up an important position in the military. I'm afraid that we have to send an invitation to him through the military headquarters. Why didn't you say so earlier? The chief immediately contacted the military headquarters. In fact, many people in the military headquarters were also paying attention to the situation here. After receiving the request, the military headquarters immediately contacted Wang Xintong. It was already midnight. There was a war in City Ha, but Jiangnan was still peaceful. Moreover, it was still the Chinese New Year period. Everyone was still immersed in the festive atmosphere. Wang Xintong hadn't gone to bed yet. She was chatting with Wang Xueshang and other family members. When she received the call, Wang Xintong was a little confused because she couldn't reach Jiang Xiao. "President Wang, the situation in City Ha has reached a critical point. You must find Mr. Jiang." Wang Xintong also anxiously paced back and forth in the room. "I can't reach him either. He often disappears. Mr. Jiang really went missing at the wrong time. Think of a way." "Okay." Wang Xintong immediately called the airline and checked the plane records. The plane turned out to be at Liaodong Airport. Why did he go to Liaodong? Did he go to City Ha? It doesn't make sense. If he went to City Ha, why didn't he tell me? Wang Xuetong asked. "What's the matter?" Wang Xintong called the police system and asked the people there to find Jiang Xiao through the phone, but the result was that his phone was turned off. There was no way to find him. The situation in City Ha is serious. It's out of control. The General Military Region wants Mr. Jiang to go out. It's urgent. Mr. Jiang doesn't want to go, Wang Xintong said anxiously. It's because I can't find him now. The news that Jiang Xiao had returned to Jiang City had spread all over the upper-class circle of Jiang City. Many people tiptoed and were ready to pay a visit to him. How could he suddenly disappear? Her daughter was Jiang Xiao's spokesperson. If she couldn't find him, others couldn't find him either. The first call from the General Military Region came. "President Wang, have you found Mr. Jiang?" Wang Xintong said with great hesitation. "I'm sorry. I didn't find him, but he should be in Liaodong. Now the plane is at Liaodong Airport. He may have gone to City Ha." "Are you sure?" Wang Xintong wasn't sure. She didn't dare to say such a big thing. "I'm just guessing. It's also possible that he went to Liaodong for other things. There were 3 provinces in Liaodong. It was such a big place. Who knew where Jiang Xiao would go?" "I'm sorry." In the command room of Liaodong, news came from the headquarters. They couldn't find Jiang Luoxia. They could only rely on themselves. "Chief, how is it?" The chief shook his head. "I can't find him. These people are all so powerful. They're even the most powerful people in China. When it's time to use them, they hide like cowards." There was silence in the command room. The last chance was gone. Then what should we do? Do we just watch as the Beast King kills Xiao Yuanzhan and slaughters all the humans? A middle-aged staff officer with glasses said. "There's only one way now. Nuclear weapons." "What?" The chief glared. His glasses almost fell out. "Do you know what you're saying? There are so many people here. Do you want them all to be buried with you? Also, the land of City Ha is uninhabitable after the nuclear bomb." The staff officer said. "I know. But Chief, there's no other way. Xiao Yuanzhan is about to be defeated. The massacre is imminent. Do we have to wait for the Beast King to kill everyone, and bring the mutated beasts to attack our city, and turn the surrounding cities into City Ha before we regret it? The chief's eyes were still staring, but his expression was slowly softening. If possible, no one was willing to use nuclear weapons. He blinked and was silent for a long time. I'll contact the headquarters. Chapter 334. The headquarters had an emergency meeting. This matter was too big, and no one knew what kind of consequences it would cause. However, if they didn't do so, the consequences would be obvious. In order to prevent unbearable consequences, they could only choose to sacrifice their own arms. Losing some people and destroying a city was better than losing a large area. In the end, they decided to accept Liao Dong's suggestion and use nuclear weapons. The battle had already reached its climax. No one knew that the government troops had already made such a decision, and were still fighting desperately against the exotic beasts for the sake of defending humanity's dignity. Of course, there were a small number of people who understood the situation and decided to retreat. In the darkness, the captain of the Nangong family's small team shuttled through the ruins and the crowd. The flames of war soared into the sky, and the flames lit up the area. He could barely see the general appearance, but he had a rough impression of their numbers and composition in the mall. When he passed by Jiang Xiu, the captain stopped. He felt that he looked similar, but he didn't dare to approach him. It was a sensitive time, and any approach would cause misunderstandings. He chose to speak first. Excuse me, are you Jiang Xiu? The group of people looked over. A person walked out from the shadows of the fire. It was a young man in his 30s. However, his beard stubble was similar to tour guide Chen's, a little white. His face was very resolute. Jiang Xiu was quite surprised. Why would someone look for him? Could it be from the Skyline Biology Group? No, if it was from the Skyline Biology Group, they wouldn't dare to call him by name. They would call him Mr. Jiang. You are. The captain was overjoyed. It's really you. I finally found you. I'm Aries Creatures. Aries Creatures? Jiang Xiu was confused. He had never heard of them before. Oh, it's the Nangong family. Our young miss asked us to find you. It's very dangerous here, and we need to leave immediately. Come with me quickly. Jiang Xiu said. Nangong family? Your young miss is Nangong Ko? Yes. Jiang Xiu said in shock. She's here too. What was a gentle and weak girl doing here? Yes, come with me quickly. We only have 10 minutes to retreat. Jiang Xiu shook his head and said, I still have something to do. You guys can leave first. Originally, he wanted to hide his true identity from Nangong Ko, even though they knew each other well, he still wanted to keep their relationship pure. Sometimes spiritual cultivation was also an idealist, and he didn't want his most primitive desires to be turned into some kind of transaction for the sake of status and wealth. However, after Zhuo Yuchen's incident was exposed, he realized that it would be difficult to hide his true identity. But now it seemed that Miss Ko didn't know his real identity. However, he probably couldn't hide it anymore. The captain said anxiously, Miss Ko cares about you very much. When you were attacked in the shopping mall, she ran to save you. Now the situation is so urgent, but she still wants us to find you in 10 minutes. Don't let her down. Jiang Xiu wondered if she had really fallen for him. Or did she feel that it was not easy to find a long-term partner like this? Or was it because she had used the same thing too many times and did not like to change it? He shook his head and said, I won't leave. You can go back now. I still have something to do here. Li Yan snorted and said, Of course he won't leave. He took such a big risk to come here and look for treasures. How could he be willing to leave when the immortal treasure is about to appear? Jiang Xiu sneered and didn't say anything. The captain was in a difficult position. He couldn't afford to waste any time. The situation was urgent, so he picked up the communicator. The signal was very chaotic, but he insisted. Miss, we've found him, but he doesn't want to leave. Please tell us what to do. Nangong Ko was counting the time when she heard the messy sound coming from the communicator. She was delighted. They must have found him. However, the signal on the battlefield was too chaotic. She could only hear someone shouting, but she couldn't hear it clearly. She tried several times and finally heard one sentence clearly. He didn't want to leave. Hey, this guy is still in high spirits. Doesn't he know it's dangerous here? Where is he? She looked at the time and immediately rushed to the captain's signal source. It wasn't far from where she was, so she arrived quickly. Jiang Xiu. Hearing this, Jiang Xiu's face slowly became deified as he looked over. Every time he met Nangong Ko, he always looked like a deified. He saw a beautiful girl, who was wearing a pair of tight jeans, a tight shirt, and a vest, walking over from a distance. She was none other than Nangong Ko. Her face was a little red under the illumination of the firelight, but her face was still as delicate and pretty as before. A pair of sparkling eyes stared at Jiang Xiu's face. It's really you. I thought I saw wrongly. What are you doing here? Do you want to die? Miss Ko was holding a dagger in her hand. It seemed that he already had some skills. The last time they hung out, Miss Ko had talked about martial arts. She even took Jiang Xiu's hair to test it. It seemed that he had completely embarked on the path of martial arts. Well, let's get out of here first. Jiang Xiu said. I can't leave now. I have something to do. If you are worried about me, you can leave first. If something really happens, I may not be able to take care of you. Come on. Miss Ko said angrily. You know some magic at most. The strange beasts here won't fall for your tricks. You should take care of me. I should take care of you. He didn't know that Miss Ko had grown from a junior warrior to a senior warrior. How dare she look down on others here? Don't be naughty. Come with me. Miss Ko grabbed his hand and was about to walk out. It'll be too late if we don't leave now. When Xiao Yuanzhan is defeated, the strange beasts will counterattack and the periphery will be blocked. At that time, we won't be able to leave even if we want to. Li Yan said. Are you going to be deserters? Didn't you see so many people rushing up the mountain to fight the strange beasts? You don't want to help them, but you're still trying to scare them and escape. It's ridiculous. Miss Ko stopped. Who is she? Jiang Xiu shook his head to show that he didn't know who she was. Nangong Ko's face became cold. As the eldest daughter of the Nangong family, she wasn't easy to bully. Since you're so brave, why don't you go up? Didn't your family teach you not to do to others what you don't want done to you? Hearing this, Li Yan's face darkened. How dare you say that I'm uneducated? Believe it or not, Nangong Ko said. What? Do you want to fight with me? She was holding a white dagger in her hand. The bodyguard next to Li Yan reminded her in a low voice. Miss Li, her fighting strength is over 1,000. She's a senior warrior, and the one next to her is also a senior warrior. We may not be a match for them. Lin Yan fiddled with her hair and said, I'm a civilized person. I won't fight with barbarians like you. Nangong Ko saw that Li Yan had admitted defeat, so she stopped being aggressive. The most important thing was that they didn't have enough time. She pulled Jiang Xiu and prepared to leave. Jiang Xiu broke free and said, I really have something to do. I can't leave. Nangong Ko said, Jiang Xiu, don't be so shameless. Do you think that I want to save you? Don't worry. I'll be fine. Hearing that Nangong Ko had come out, Jiang Xiu was a bit anxious. The current situation was indeed very dangerous. Didn't you say that I'm powerful? Nangong Ko opened her eyes wide and said, When did I say that you're powerful? You're just a mediocre cat. Jiang Xiu whispered something in her ear. Miss Nangong's pretty face immediately turned red. This guy really dares to say anything. How can he say that he's powerful at that time be the same as what he's saying now? You're a pervert. Nangong Ko's eyes couldn't help but become more charming. At this time, the roar of a plane came from the sky. Jiang Xiu said with a smile, Well, now we can't leave even if we want to. Nangong Ko's hearing wasn't as good as his, so she asked, Why? Jiang Xiu said, The bomber plane is here. The plane came very quickly, and the roar of the plane could already be heard. Nangong Ko was a bit confused. So what? She was a bit confused. Fighter planes had been used before, but they were useless. Why would a bomber plane appear? Jiang Xiu said, This isn't an ordinary bomber plane. If I'm not wrong, there should be nuclear weapons on it. Tisk, who are you trying to scare? Nuclear weapons are launched from bases? Jiang Xiu said, You're talking about the current nuclear weapons. If the government wants to use them, Of course they'll use the old nuclear weapons first. This should be an old version of nuclear weapons. Nangongkoer's face turned pale. Then won't we all die with them? Chapter 335. What kind of power was a nuclear weapon? It was either an old model or something from the 1970s. Don't forget that America's first nuclear weapon was even earlier than this. It was said that the mushroom cloud it produced was 18,000 meters high. It was even higher than the tallest mountain in the world. The air was unbreathable, and the temperature rose to 3,000 degrees Celsius. Now, the nuclear weapon on the plane was not weak at all. When this nuclear bomb fell, the strong light waves could blind people, and the high temperature could turn everything into ashes. The strong wind created by the shock waves could destroy all the buildings. How could people survive? At that time, not only people, but the whole city of Harbin would be destroyed. Xiao Yuanzhan was about to be defeated, and the mutated beasts were about to launch a counterattack. It was very likely that the government would use nuclear weapons. Cold sweat trickled down Nangongkoer's forehead, and her hands and feet became ice cold. When she looked at Jiang Xiu's face, she found that he was smiling mischievously. "Why are you smiling?" Jiang Xiu said casually. "I found that you're quite good to me." Nangongkoer sighed and said, "Your skin is thicker than the city walls. Do you know that I pity you?" Jiang Xiu said, "You're praising me? My skin is thicker than the city walls because I want to protect you. When the nuclear bomb falls, I'm willing to use my body to protect you." Stop, don't be so disgusting. Nangongkoer couldn't stand his shamelessness. If the nuclear bomb really fell, what could he do with his small body? Jiang Xiu whispered something in her ear. Nangongkoer was curious about what he was going to say. She wanted to know what he was going to say before he died. However, when she heard what he said, she choked and coughed several times. Her face turned red, which made her look even more beautiful. This guy is really a jerk. He's still thinking about those dirty things at this moment. "You're a jerk," Jiang Xiu said. "Miss Koer, you're a rich young lady. Can't you watch your words?" Nangongkoer furrowed her brows and glared at him angrily. "You still dare to criticize me? You are a big bastard." Jiang Xiu shook his head helplessly. "Old people used to say something. I didn't believe it at first, but now I do." "What words?" Jiang Xiu said. "Beating is a sign of affection and scolding is a sign of love." This guy was really too much. Jiang Xiu even signaled her with his eyes, and she followed his gaze. It was a dark box and the light of the fire couldn't reach it, so he signaled Nangongkoer to go there. F***ck. You don't care about Miss Koer's feelings at all. What? She didn't know why Miss Koer would follow her there and ask her such a question. If he had 300 taels of silver here, why would he take her to a place where no one could see? She knew what he was up to. Miss Koer was pinned against the wall by Jiang Xiu. Her cheeks were burning and her body was trembling. It seemed that she couldn't resist Jiang Xiu's flirting with her anymore. "Just a hug, okay? I don't want to die so miserably." The nuclear bomb was about to fall, and her life was about to end. Miss Koer put down her so-called restraint, but she really didn't want to be embarrassed. Although at the last moment of her life, she also wanted to have Jiang Xiu. But she wanted to die happily and beautifully. However, Jiang Xiu didn't understand a girl's romantic feelings, so he kept touching her body. The girl breathed heavily and said, "I don't want to know you in my little life." Jiang Xiu was confused. "Why?" The girl said, "I've been taken advantage of by you in this life, and it's not enough for me. I also want to do it in the next life." Well, don't think that I'm a casual girl. That was caused by the accident that day, and I didn't lose my virginity to you by accident. Why don't you try to pursue me for the rest of your life?" Jiang Xiu said. "Then I won't be able to pursue you. At least you have some self-awareness." Suddenly someone outside shouted, "Oh no, that's a bomber with a nuclear bomb." In order to avoid being shot down by the Beast King, the bomber flew high, about 300 or 400 meters above the ground. But many of them were mercenaries and even government soldiers, so they recognized the fighter planes. It's really a nuclear plane. The crowd around the Fairyland Mountain was in an uproar. If the nuclear bomb fell, the exotic beasts would be killed, but they would all be buried with it. No, we can't do that. The bomber in the sky was very high, but the roar made everyone present feel desperate. Some people shouted angrily, and some immediately knelt on the ground with a nervous breakdown. No. Xiao Yuanzhan, who was fiercely fighting the Beast King, was already an arrow at the end of its flight. He could only take a beating now, and had no strength to fight back. Bang! His body was fiercely smashed down from the sky by the Beast King. The force was so fierce that Xiao Yuanzhan bent and sank into the mud. He no longer had the strength to get up. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth, and his expression was a little dazed. There was no longer any fighting spirit in his eyes. All his bones and organs had been destroyed, and he no longer had the strength to fight. Xiao Yuanzhan has been defeated. When the chief of the command headquarters saw this scene, his eyes turned red, but he couldn't open his mouth. There were at least tens of thousands of people who were going to die with them. He didn't have the courage to give such an order. His mouth kept trembling and he couldn't speak. Give the order. Give the order, chief. The staff officer at the side urged anxiously when he saw the chief's indecisiveness. The chief gritted his teeth and used all his strength to roar. Fire! His roar reverberated through the entire control center. At this moment, everyone's hearts trembled. Through the voice control system, it could be heard clearly by the pilots. Dong Dong 1 Roger. This was a middle-aged pilot. His breathing was very rapid. He knew what pressing the red button meant, but he had to obey the order. Only by obeying the order could he kill that terrifying Beast King. He lowered his head and looked at the mountain below, taking a rough aim. Jiang Xiu, we're going to die. Nangong Koer hugged his waist tightly and looked up at him. I definitely won't be able to catch up with you in my next life. So, how can I bear to die? Wait for me. Jiang Xiu gently pushed her away, after which he strode away in large strides. At the same time, his divine eyes transformed into a pitch-black expanse that resembled a pool of darkness. Boom. Suddenly, there was an explosion. He suddenly soared into the sky, and his strength instantly broke through the sound barrier. Swoosh! He rushed into the sky from the ruins and turned into a dazzling light, shooting towards the Beast King at an extremely fast speed. Jiang! Nangong Koer suddenly covered her mouth. She was stunned. She couldn't believe that Jiang Xiu was so powerful. At this moment, the watch on her hand kept beeping. She raised her hand and looked at it. The combat power increased from 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, 10,000 to 100,000, 100,000. Bang! The watch exploded. What? Her mind was blank, but Jiang Xiu's strength opened all the pores on her body. Her throat was sore, and her eyes were filled with tears. It doesn't make sense. His hair doesn't have the God emergence gene. The others also noticed that a white light soared into the sky. Oh my God, what did I see? That looks like a knife. It rushed out from the ruins. Some people exclaimed. Some people were excited and inexplicably shocked. In the land of China, there were countless capable people and powerhouses. The real powerhouse had not appeared yet. Now he was here. Here he was. Whoosh. The knife was too fast. It was unbelievably fast, and it was approaching the Beast King. Only a white light could be seen on the screen in the command center. It was too fast. The Beast King was shocked and quickly retreated. It's a knife, a flying knife. Everyone who saw this scene was extremely excited. The Beast King retreated quickly, but the flying knife was even faster. The distance between them was getting closer and closer, and the Beast King was unable to dodge. Puff. This time the Beast King, who was incomparably powerful and intimidating, could not dodge. His body was pierced through, and a large amount of blood splattered everywhere. Oh my God, the Beast King has been pierced through. He's injured. Everyone in the command center shouted excitedly. He won. Did you see that? China is not that easy to bully. The people below who saw this scene were even more excited, and there was an uproar. Chapter 336. In the sky, the Beast King was stained with blood. He looked down at his body in shock. There was a big hole in his body, and blood was gushing out of it. Although the hole was small compared to his huge body, he was seriously injured after his defense was broken. His blood kept flowing out. If a god couldn't take it, a beast wouldn't be able to take it either. If he lost too much blood, his power would weaken, and his body would fail. However, he didn't care. Beasts had strong self-healing abilities. If a human was pierced through, he would die, but beasts could recover very quickly. Therefore, the Beast King only glanced at it, then stared coldly at the sword light. "Who are you?" He was more concerned about this question. The sword light stopped. The Beast King was shocked, and so was everyone else. That wasn't a sword light or a sword light. It was a person, a domineering human. He was floating in the air, and his long hair was like flames. The full moon behind him was completely controlled by him, as if it was a perfect combination with him. His body was emitting a hazy light, and he was surrounded by clouds. He looked like a god. He's floating in the air? When Xiao Yuanzhan appeared, he used a broken piece as a foundation to fly to the top of the mountain, which had already shocked everyone. But now this person was flying directly into the sky. If there was no comparison, there would be no harm. At this moment, Jiang Xiu was truly like a god descending upon the world, shocking everyone. "It's him." Nangong Ko ran out of the dark alley. "Give me the binoculars." She didn't give the captain a chance to explain. Who is he? This was the question in many people's minds. Jiang Xiu Jiang Luoxia. Nangong Ko looked at the powerful man in the sky, and she felt like she had been deceived. She cursed fiercely. "Bastard! How dare you pretend to be a loser and fool me?" The captain also felt that this person's body shape was very similar to Jiang Xiu's. "Miss, is he really?" Nangong Ko saw Jiang Xiu fly into the sky with her own eyes. How could it be fake? She nodded heavily. "That's right, he is Jiang Luoxia." The team members on the side were all shocked when they heard this. The captain said, "It's really Mr. Jiang. We're saved. The strongest person in China is here. Did you guys hear that? The #1 expert of Hua Nation is here." Hua. When the news spread, there was an uproar. The originally despairing crowd immediately became excited, and a strong fighting spirit shone again. "Mr. Jiang, kill him. Kill this beast." Xiao Yuanzhan also heard it, and his eyes widened as he looked at the man in the sky. No wonder he was able to severely injure the Beast King in one move. In the current Hua Nation, only that person had such strength. Upon hearing this, Li Yan was dumbfounded, and she looked at Nangong Ko and the others in disbelief. "What did you just say? Are you Jiang Luoxia?" "Yes." Nangong Ko was really shocked, but after being shocked and excited to the point of almost crying, she was displeased. "What do you mean? Are you hiding your identity because you're afraid that I'll rely on you, or because you're afraid that I'll covet your power?" Nangong Ko thought to herself, "I don't care. If I want to talk about rare things, I want to talk about your unbelievably handsome face." Li Yan's face darkened. "Are you really that Jiang Luoxia? Mr. Jiang? The one who created the 9 mysteries cleansing heaven? The one who created the 1,000 autumns legacy? And the one who is unrestrained and unrestrained?" The tour guide Chen said, "In the current Hua Nation, except for Mr. Jiang, I'm afraid that no one can fly in the sky." The Beast King said, "So it's you. I've heard of you. You're quite powerful." Jiang Xiu sneered. "You want to stand up for those stupid humans? You want to deal with me?" Jiang Xiu said, "This is human territory. If you leave, I can spare your life today." Jiang Xiu was naturally confident in killing the Beast King, but there were so many exotic beasts in the city that he couldn't kill them all. If things went wrong, the nuclear bomb above his head might still fall on him. The Beast King said, "What if I say no?" He wouldn't give up so easily. Not to mention the territory of Harbin, he wouldn't give up the treasures in the Fairyland Mountain and the strange flowers and fruits in the mountain to humans. "Then I'll have to kill you." As he spoke, Jiang Xiu's body was full of knife intent. It turned into a flash of knife light, and shot out at a high speed like a flying knife. His body was dazzling. It turned into a white jade that was crystal clear and dazzling. The knife light surged, as if it could cut the whole night sky in half. It was like a meteorite sliding across the sky. What's this? The martial cultivators were dumbfounded. Were their eyes playing tricks on them? How could a human martial cultivator reach such a level? The dazzling knife light shot toward the Beast King. The Beast King was huge, more than 5 meters tall. His entire body emitted a dark luster, and his skin was as hard as steel. Roar! He roared angrily, and his huge body rushed toward the knife light. Ding! Then he clawed at the flying knife. This claw contained his power, the way of the heavens, and his awakened bloodline as one. Layers of claw marks burst out, accompanied by the whistling sound of the wind, and the air was torn apart inch by inch. Ding ding! The claw light collided with the knife light, producing a deafening sound of metal colliding. The high-density vibrating sound almost pierced people's eardrums. Ah! All of the martial cultivators below covered their ears. Poochie poochie! The knife light exploded, covering the sky and the earth. Blood kept splashing out, accompanied by heart-wrenching and miserable roars. Ah! The Beast King's flesh flew out piece by piece. He was shocked and angry, and his heart was filled with endless fear. My hand! A forelimb flew out with blood. It was cut off directly by the knife light, and blood was splattering everywhere. It was too fast, and they couldn't see clearly. They could only see Jiang Xiu's body, which had turned into a knife light, flashing around the Beast King. His attacks were fast and ruthless, and the knife light shocked the sky, like an immortal slaughtering a demon. Roar roar! A dignified supreme being of a race was actually being abused like a domestic animal. He was furious, furious to the extreme. Hong, his entire body exploded with a loud bang, and steaming flames burned out. They were jet-black flames, and there seemed to be lightning dancing between the flames. Burning the beast's soul? Naive. Whoosh. Jiang Xiu was too fast. The strong light on his forehead flashed, and he suddenly flashed backward. When he looked back, the world suddenly changed. A heavenly blade that had existed since ancient times slashed down from the sky amidst the surging blade chi. The length of this knife was so big that it crossed several miles. Heaven and earth, angry knife slashing 1,000 mountains. Boom! The heavenly knife that was several miles long slashed down from the sky. The moment the knife fell, everyone's eyes widened, and they held their breaths as they watched this scene nervously. They were dumbfounded, and they couldn't believe it. This was a knife released by a human, and this knife crossed several miles. The fierce aura was so strong that even the world seemed to be unable to withstand it. This. Nangong Koer's mouth formed a no shape, and she couldn't close it for a long time. This is too strong. Before the saber had even landed, the Beast King felt the incomparably powerful saber aura pressing down on him, making it difficult for him to breathe. His body trembled, and the blazing thunder and lightning on his body suddenly extinguished. Even his body exploded with a bang. When the heavenly knife really fell, his flesh and blood were chopped into pieces. Is he dead? Killed. They didn't think that the Beast King could survive such a powerful heavenly knife. That knife was too shocking. The command center was also stunned by this shocking battle. The bureau chief finally reacted. He won, right? The staff officer said excitedly. Yes, we won. This person is Jiang Luoxia. He's finally here. We don't have to use the nuclear bomb anymore. Suddenly, the command center became eerily quiet. Everyone thought of a problem, and their eyes gradually became filled with fear. The bureau chief hurriedly grabbed the speaker. The fighter jet was still circling in the sky. Although the battle was fierce, it actually happened in a very short period of time. What was worse was that the pilot who was sitting on the plane flew high in order to avoid being shot down by the Beast King. Moreover, the pilot couldn't see the seat directly below him. He took a deep breath and pressed the red button. Launch. The cabin below the plane opened, and a missile fell from it. This was a scene that would be recorded in history. No. Chapter 337. The Beast King was almost defenseless against Jiang Xiu. The Beast King should be a monster god, which was on the same level as Jiang Xiu. However, it was crushed by Jiang Xiu. After 3,000 years of fighting, Jiang Xiu had killed a large number of monster gods. He had killed countless monster gods like the Beast King during his growth, so he was already very familiar with them. The cheers from below grew louder and louder. We won, we won. This was a victory for the humans, a great victory. Jiang Xiu's strength made the combat cultivators below see a bright future. Most importantly, the Beast King was killed by Jiang Xiu. The crisis was over, and everyone could survive. Mr. Jiang. Mr. Jiang. Heart-wrenching screams rang out. At this moment, their respect for Jiang Xiu came from the depths of their hearts. Even the heavily injured Xiao Yuanzhan was incomparably emotional. He had once said that even if there were 2 Xiao Yuanzhan, they wouldn't be a match for Jiang Luoxia. But today he wanted to change his words. Even if there were 20, 200, 2,000 Xiao Yuanzhan, they still wouldn't be a match for Jiang Luoxia. Descending from the heavens to cleanse the 9 mysteries, 1,000 years of hard work. His strength had never been seen before in history. He's not handsome at all, Miss Nangong said against her will. In fact, she was really impressed. No wonder people said that he would not die. It turned out that he was confident in killing the Beast King. Kill. Suddenly, someone shouted. The Beast King was dead, so it was time for the humans to counterattack. Kill. The combat cultivators rushed up the mountain. The mutated beasts were howling and crying. The beasts needed a leader more than the humans. Although the humans would be defeated on the battlefield when their leader was killed, there would still be people who could stand up again. However, the beasts would scatter and run away. The machine guns fired. 222, it was a one-sided massacre. However, at this moment, the sound of a missile could be heard from the sky. The next moment, when they saw the huge nuclear bomb falling from the sky, everyone's heart collapsed. Stop! The leaders and staff officers in the command center shouted frantically. I've already fired. Is there a problem, Chief? It was said that nuclear weapons would explode with a delay. The last nuclear explosion had been delayed by 47 seconds. Even so, he had to leave quickly. The mushroom cloud of the explosion was more than 10,000 meters high. If he was too slow, even he would be blown to smithereens. Problem? The bureau chief smashed the microphone in his hand into smithereens. Sigh, he hugged his head. He had lived his entire life as a soldier of steel, but at this moment, he was so regretful that he wanted to commit suicide. There was dead silence in the command center. Many people collapsed in their chairs. It was over. It's an atomic bomb. Atomic bomb. Just a moment ago, Nangong-Er's heart was filled with sweetness, and she was looking at Jiang Xiu with a flirtatious gaze. She decided that she would reward him later, as he was so awesome. She was full of expectations, but in the next second, her pretty face turned pale, and the sweetness in her heart turned into endless sorrow. It was too ironic. The Beast King had already been killed, and the humans had begun their counterattack. The sky had actually dropped an atomic bomb. Jiang Xiu. Jiang Luoxia. Tears fell from Nangong-Er's eyes. She felt sad for herself, and she felt sorry for Jiang Xiu. She had thought that the crisis had passed, and the light was about to come. It was too ridiculous. Goodbye, goodbye forever. She stretched out her hand. At this moment, she hoped that she could hold Jiang Xiu's hand. Jiang Xiu also looked up, and his expression became extremely serious. As an earthling, he was very clear about the power of nuclear weapons. Moreover, he had used up a lot of his divine power to launch that terrifying attack. He had no confidence in facing a nuclear weapon. However, it was too late for him to escape. Jiang Xiu knew that he had never been a good person. He could even be said to be a villain in TV shows. He had never wanted to be a hero. However, at this moment, he lowered his head and looked at Nangong-Er. It was better for one of them to die than to die together. Boom. Jiang Xiu's whole body flew toward the missile like a ray of light. What is he going to do? He's going for the atomic bomb. Nangong-Er's eyes widened. Despair and helplessness surged in her heart. She screamed involuntarily. No. She knew what Jiang Xiu was going to do. He was going to detonate the atomic bomb in the sky. No, Nangong-Er's tears fell. She couldn't bear to part with Jiang Xiu. She couldn't bear to part with him. She hoped that she and Jiang Xiu could return to the imperial capital safely and live a life of thievery. Although it was shameless, it was addictive. She couldn't stop even if she wanted to. Mr. Jiang Xiao's speed was extremely fast. At this moment, he didn't hold back any of the divine power in his body. He was even faster and fiercer than before. He was like a rocket that rose into the sky, rushing toward the nuclear bomb. I'm here. It's right in front of me. Jiang Xiao hugged the atomic bomb and rushed toward the sky without stopping. The mushroom cloud created by the nuclear bomb's explosion was 17,000 meters high. In other words, if he wanted Nangong who was on the ground, to be safe, the nuclear bomb had better explode at an altitude of 17,000 meters, or even more than 20,000 meters. This was the only way to ensure her safety. The military leaders in front of the control station could clearly see through the satellite that Jiang Xiao was holding the atomic bomb with his own flesh and blood. Then he rushed toward the sky. They were dumbfounded. Once again, they were dumbfounded. Mr. Jiang is really a godlike man. When Jiang Xiao hugged the atomic bomb's huge kinetic energy, as well as the force that Jiang Xiao hugged it, caused the bomb to explode. Just like last time, the explosion would be delayed for 47 seconds. He still had 47 seconds left. Jiang Xiao, Nangong couldn't see him anymore. Her heart completely collapsed when he disappeared from her sight. She cried out Jiang Xiao's name as she lay on the ground, paralyzed. However, she knew that Jiang Xiao would never come back. She didn't care. She really didn't care at all. However, why did her heart hurt so much? It was as if it was going to tear her apart. A blazing white light exploded in the sky, and the whole world was as bright as day, illuminating the whole sky. Then, a deafening explosion sounded, and a mushroom cloud rose from the bright light. It contained a terrifying light and heat, and rushed straight to the sky like a volcanic eruption. At this moment, the entire atmosphere was shaking. Even the earth seemed to be stuck for a moment. The light was so dazzling, but it was also so terrifying and merciless. Jiang Xiao, Nangong screamed at the top of her lungs. The people on the sidelines looked at the sky with tears in their eyes. Their hearts were filled with love for Jiang Xiao. If it wasn't for Jiang Xiao, they would have all died on the spot. Their hearts were also filled with respect for him. He was a hero, a legend. He had saved everyone and saved the city. The mushroom cloud in the sky seemed to have hit the atmosphere. It spread out in all directions, forming a hemispherical arc. Mr. Jiang, the staff officer in the control room, was dejected. It was a great misfortune for such a person to fall. Send a message to the headquarters and report the situation. The bureau chief wiped his tears and said, the news of China using nuclear weapons would soon spread around the world. America, Russia near Liaodong, as well as Japan and North Korea, would probably all know about it. Soon, Hua would face national pressure. It had been more than 70 years since the end of World War II. Today it was an exception. Xiao Yuanzhan also had a look of pity on his face. It was so unfair that such a powerful person would fall just like that. Why did you use the nuclear bomb? Since Mr. Jiang was here, why did you use it? The chief of the General Military Headquarters was furious. He smashed the control room into pieces. He didn't even notice that his palm was bleeding. You have to give me an explanation. The chief of Liaodong said. I was shocked at the situation. I didn't react in time to inform the pilot. When I realized what was happening, it was already too late. The nuclear bomb was already. Bastard. The chief of the General Military Headquarters cursed. Let me tell you, you have to take full responsibility for this. Do you know what Jiang Luo means to the current Hua nation? Without him, the Hua nation will lose more than just a city in Harbin. There are also tens of thousands of martial cultivators inside. You, the chief of the General Military Headquarters, was heartbroken. His face turned red and he fainted. Chapter 338. The moment the nuclear bomb exploded, every country in the world that had a nuclear bomb defense system was able to detect it. People from all over the world were stunned when they found out about it. The whole world was shocked. It was too shocking. The Hua nation had used a nuclear bomb to deal with a mutated beast. They were shocked by the power of the mutated beast, and at the same time, by the determination of the people of the Hua nation. No one thought that Jiang Xiu could survive. Jiang Xiu was dead for sure. That was a nuclear bomb, a weapon that could suppress a planet. Of course, there were 3 people who survived the nuclear bomb, and Si Wuxia was one of them. However, when the nuclear bomb exploded, they sensed the danger and ran away, so they were not at the center of the explosion. However, Jiang Xiu was different. He was holding the nuclear bomb. One person held the grenade with his body when he saw it was about to explode, and the other person turned around and ran away. This was completely different. Previously, no one had thought that he could survive. Jiang Luoxia is dead. A man who rose to fame in the Hua nation like a comet, who shocked the whole of Europe and was famous all over the world, had withered away. Countless people looked up at the sky and saluted. Jiang Xiu, Nangong Koer choked with sobs. Miss Koer, let's go. The team leader dragged Nangong Koer away. The nuclear bomb exploded in the sky, and their lives were saved. However, the air here was breathless. Even the air was highly toxic and had strong nuclear radiation, which could cause serious damage to the human body, or even death. Jiang Xiu. Many people began to realize the problem, and they started to run away from Harbin. Miss, wake up. Mr. Jiang has sacrificed his life. The team leader was also very sad. In the Hua nation, Jiang Xiu was ruthless, but it didn't stop him from having a large number of fans. He was the most powerful man in the world, and his achievements in the Battle of the Heavenly Gate were enough to make people admire him. Even Xiao Yuanzhan admired him, let alone other people. Hurry up. Everyone, get out of Harbin. The headquarters ordered the government forces to evacuate the people as soon as possible. They wanted every living person to leave Harbin safely. The humans began to flee. The mutant beasts also sensed the danger, or perhaps it was because their beast king had been killed, and they felt that this place was not safe, so they began to retreat from the Wangdaxing mountain range. The dream of enclosing the land and building a tribe was shattered. Because it was dark and shrouded by a strong light, as well as tens of thousands of meters in the sky, no one could see anything clearly. However, just as they had expected, Jiang Xiu's divine body could not withstand the huge nuclear fusion. The divine power protecting his body was instantly exhausted, and his body was blown to pieces. Similarly, no one saw a knife pellet fall from the sky and land on Paradise Mountain. The knife pellet was wrapped up into a small granule. When it fell to the ground, it did not shatter. After all, it was condensed from the longevity talisman stone. Even Jiang Xiu himself had not expected such an outcome. He couldn't see or hear. No, to be precise, he had low intelligence. No, he was more like a primitive fertilized egg now. Soft footsteps could be heard as they stepped on the grass. A melodious female voice sighed. It was very pleasant to the ears. She squatted down beside the haystack and stretched out her fair and slender fingers to gently fiddle with the knife pellet. The knife pellet moved a few times like a baby that had been caught to be nurtured and avoided. The female voice giggled and reached out to carefully pick up the knife pellet. She placed it in her palm and turned to leave. She came to a haystack and stroked the knife pellet as if it were a small animal. Then she put the knife pellet beside a strange divine grass. Jiang Xiu couldn't see or hear at this moment. If he saw it, he would recognize it as the Ming stalk grass. Traveling to the North Pole, to the mirror volcano, where the sun and moon do not shine, there are dragons holding fire to illuminate the 4 poles of the mountain. There are strange plants everywhere. The Ming stalk grass is like a golden lamp that can be folded into a candle to illuminate the shape of ghosts. Jiang Xiu's soul form was reflected and floated on the ground. However, he could neither speak nor speak. His eyes were tightly shut. Let's wait for the time. Jiang Xiu was unconscious. He didn't know how much time had passed. 2 days before the year of the year, a dragon's fire appeared. Flames emerged from the ground and incinerated his soul. This soul wasn't a real soul. It was just a shadow reflected by the Ming stalk grass. The dragon's fire couldn't burn it. Instead, it was slowly absorbed by the knife light. Stay here obediently. Day after day, mysterious patterns slowly appeared on the surface of the knife pellet. These patterns were exactly the same as the divine pattern of Jiang Xiu's first sound of heaven and earth. On the side, a second divine pattern was activated. The pattern was emitting a strange fire that was like flames and light, appearing and disappearing at the same time. The soul reflected by the knife pellet was already sitting cross-legged. His body was shining with the same color of golden fire. He was like a resplendent golden flame warrior. His body was golden and glazed, and one could faintly see the divine bones and fire blood inside. At this moment, Jiang Xiu was completely naked. His flesh was also becoming more and more real. What am I? He slowly opened his eyes. His mind was blank. Slowly his memory began to recover. Am I dead? Or am I alive? Jiang Xiu remembered that he had rushed into the sky with the nuclear bomb. Then, the power of the nuclear bomb was a little beyond Jiang Xiu's imagination. The moment it exploded, the high temperature and violent explosive force were strong. He tried his best to resist for less than a second. Then he felt excruciating pain and his body completely exploded. Logically speaking, he should be dead. But how did he come back to life? He looked around and was delighted. This was definitely a stroke of luck. His natal Dharma artifact, the knife pellet, actually landed beside the Ming stalk grass. Moreover, it was connected to the dragon's fire. This was a rebirth from the ashes. His luck was too good. Even though Jiang Xiu had a mental state of more than 3,000 years, he was also very surprised at this moment. He was so happy that he almost jumped up. However, his body couldn't move now. Day after day, month after month. I didn't expect it to be a blessing in disguise. However, it's a pity that I can't directly become a superior deity in one go. I can only stop at the intermediate deity realm, the heavenly Tao of fire. It's already a great fortune to be able to make a breakthrough. Jiang Xiu thought to himself. Could it be that doing good deeds could really be blessed by the heavens? Now he really regretted not learning more divination skills from his good friend Xing Kong from the immortal martial continent. If he could get some good karma from doing good deeds, this kind of cultivation was not bad. He could even gain a good reputation. Just as Jiang Xiu was reborn from the ashes in the immortal land mountain, the outside world had undergone earth-shattering changes. Everyone thought that the first nuclear weapon dropped by Hua Nation was an accident, but who would have thought that it would become the norm in the following world? Not only Hua Nation, but all the other countries used nuclear weapons one after another. Even so, they didn't gain any benefits. The condemnation of public opinion, the rise of various strange beasts, and the rise of strong cultivators caused the countries to be in chaos. The European Union was divided, but their territory was shrinking bit by bit. Many cities fell. Not to mention the European Union, even the powerful American Barney and Hua Nation couldn't escape this fate. Harbin and Hua Nation was just the beginning. Similar situations broke out in North China and East China. However, they didn't have a second Jiangluoxia, and many cities fell. Correspondingly, the entire ecological environment was changing. Before the arrival of chaos, humans also ushered in a powerful outbreak. More and more people appeared, and they were also getting stronger. However, one thing couldn't change was that those with money and power were still high and mighty, while those without money and power could only struggle bitterly. The Hua Nation's government was still very supportive. At least, they still ensured the safety of most of the territory. 1 year later, in the immortal land mountain, Jiang Xiu was naked. He didn't look any different from before he was severely injured. This guy still knew shame. He took a leaf to cover his important parts, and lived like a primitive man in the mountains. He walked casually in the mountains with his head lowered. From time to time, he would reach out and pick the spiritual flowers and spiritual fruits in the mountains to satisfy his hunger. One had to know that eating one of these things would provide endless benefits, but he ate them to satisfy his hunger for a long time. Later, he found his conscience and felt that it was too wasteful. No matter how big the immortal land mountain was, it couldn't support him eating like this. Then he made a cauldron and began to refine pills. He refined the spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits into pills. Another period of time passed. After everything was prepared, Jiang Xiu once again planned to enter the virtuous realm, to collect the light of the divine path. He had advanced from a low god to a mid-god. Logically speaking, his light of the divine path should have also risen by one level. However, such a situation did not occur. He believed that he still had to continue collecting. Chapter 339. The ancient dragonfire did not appear again. Jiang Xiu was already prepared for this. Previously, it was already very sparse, with only a few remaining flames. Now it was completely gone. This time, he meditated in order to enter the higher void stage. He sat cross-legged and prepared to collect the divine light. As his divine telekinesis was activated, his consciousness floated out and kept rising from the void, drifting further and further away with his thoughts. As his thoughts drifted away, he once again entered this inconceivable situation. A mental journey into the higher void. Compared to the previous time, it was relatively easy this time. He did not feel any pressure at all. Not long after, he saw specks of sparkling light. They were all divine light. He did not linger, but kept going upwards. The scene before him was like a starry night sky, scattered like stars in the sky. It was beautiful and mysterious. In one breath, he rushed to the highest point. Previously, when he was trying to obtain the light of the firmament god path from the highest point of the firmament god path, he was struck down by someone. Back then, Jiang Xiu had tried to fight back, but in the end he was slapped out of the great void stage. This time, Jiang Xiu did not fuse his soul with the heavenly divine light. At that time he was only a lower god. Now that he could break through the first barrier of the higher void stage and enter a higher level, he could only fuse with one light of the divine path. Of course, he would choose a higher level existence. Also, he wanted to make the bullies who had forcibly stopped him from obtaining the heavenly divine light pay the price. When he rushed to the second tier of the higher void stage, a strong pressure fell on him. His divine telekinesis almost fell. It felt as if the gravity on Earth had suddenly increased by 100 times. It pressed him to the ground, and he could not even move a finger. Although Jiang Xiu's physical body had already reached the level of a middle god, his spirit still had to fuse with the light of the divine path. When that time came, Jiang Xiu's divine telekinesis would increase greatly, and he would become a true middle god. Roar! Jiang Xiu let out an angry roar. He suddenly resisted the pressure from above. After slowly adapting, he rushed upwards. He wanted to rush to the second tier in one go. The higher he rushed, the more the pressure increased. Humph! Jiang Xiu's ruthless character made him arrogant and conceited. The biggest characteristic of such a person was that he would rather die than admit defeat. He chanted a forbidden technique to forcefully increase the power of his divine sense. This kind of secret technique had a huge after effect, just like the physical body blood explosion. If it was serious, it could even be life-threatening. Usually it was used to escape, but at this moment he actually used it in order to rush to the second level. He was truly a ruthless character. A doubtful voice came from above. Before the voice had even died away, Jiang Xiu's psyche suddenly increased by several times. With a boom, it was as if the great void realm in the starry sky was sprinkled with specks of bright light sand. The enchantment was broken, and his psyche rushed to the second level of the great void realm. Who is it? It was this voice. It was the same person from last time. Jiang Xiu sneered in his heart. It was time to pay back the debt. Who dares to trespass into the second heaven without the permission of the ancestral court? Jiang Xiu's voice sounded. So what if I trespassed? Considering that it wasn't easy for you to cultivate, why don't you retreat quickly? Otherwise I'll destroy your divine soul. He rebuked in a commanding tone, his killing intent obvious. If you don't kill me, I'll kill you. Die. Jiang Xiu's voice was cold. When the word die came out of his mouth, he had already rushed toward that person's psyche. You're courting death. The power from above also suddenly descended. It was like an irresistible force that was about to crush Jiang Xiu. Boom. The two forces collided violently, causing the entire sky to shake. It was as if two meteorites had collided in outer space. Countless brilliant white particles of light scattered everywhere. How is this possible? That person cried out in shock. Jiang Xiu's divine path was so powerful that it could not only withstand the power of his psyche, but it also crushed his power and rushed straight into the sky. Do you still remember me? The lesser deity that you bullied. It's you. That person was incomparably shocked. No, impossible. It can't be you. How long has it been since you became a lesser deity? It hasn't even been 2 years. How can you go from a lesser deity to an intermediate deity? Boom. Jiang Xiu's psyche actually increased again and again. Since he had already used a forbidden technique, he would completely burn his psyche. Go back and ask your mother. Aren't you very awesome? You even want to interfere with which divine path light I want to fuse with. The intermediate deity said in horror. No. The power that Jiang Xiu's psyche burst forth made him feel terrified. He was also an intermediate deity like Jiang Xiu. Jiang Xiu hadn't even fused with the intermediate deity's divine path light, yet he was still suppressed. What was even more terrifying was that Jiang Xiu was resisting his power and rushing straight to the highest point of the second heaven. There, he couldn't reach that point. Hurry and stop. The intermediate deity's psyche began to be unable to withstand the pressure above him. His voice became weak. If this continued, his psyche would probably explode and be annihilated into nothingness. Stop. When you interfered with my divine path light, did you ever think that you would beg me one day? Die for me. The middle-aged deity shouted. No, hurry and stop, I beg you, hurry and stop. I am a divine official of the ancestral court. If you kill me, you will become a criminal of the ancestral court. Hurry and stop, let's talk things over. Boom. Jiang Xiu's psyche exploded again. Not only did he not stop, but he also rushed up. No, with a bang the power above Jiang Xiu dissipated. The psyche exploded into countless resplendent flames, like fireworks exploding in the sky, sprinkling down from the sky. His psyche was annihilated. Jiang Xiu let out a cold snort. He would never show any mercy to his enemies, let alone show any mercy. If it weren't for his psyche, Jiang Xiu would have crushed his bones and scattered his ashes. However, with his psyche annihilated, what was left behind was only a corpse. Just now he was only focused on killing his enemies for revenge, and didn't pay attention to the situation around him. At this moment, he discovered that the second heaven was empty, like a starless night. There were only 3 spots emitting light. He flew over and began to investigate. They were actually the 3 divine path lights in his body. It turned out that the first heaven was the beginning of everything. If he didn't even take the divine path light of the first heaven, then there wouldn't be any higher level divine path light. Bastard! Jiang Xiu cursed fiercely. He wanted nothing more than to whip that intermediate deity's corpse. Now he could only choose one of the 3 intermediate divine path lights in front of him. And his psyche began to suffer intense pain, and began to dissipate. The aftereffects of the forbidden technique were acting up. He was on the same level as the intermediate deity, and this intermediate deity had fused with his divine path light, and his psyche was stronger than his. If it weren't for the forbidden technique, Jiang Xiu might not have been able to defeat him. I have to hurry up and fuse my soul. Which one should I choose? The 3 divine path lights each had their own merits. The first was the green divine path light. Jiang Xiu had already roughly grasped the use of this divine path light. It had a very strong healing ability, and could allow Jiang Xiu's body to recover faster. This was very important. Now he was only a lower deity, and he could already heal completely necrotic mortal bones. If he continued to level up, he even doubted whether he would have the ability to bring the dead back to life. However, his personality was mainly focused on killing. He didn't like saving people or increasing his defense. Give up. The second was the divine path light of faith. He also didn't want to rely on ordinary people. Give up. The third was Li Mi's divine path light. He still didn't know what it was used for. Thinking that he didn't like the other 2, he decided to choose the third. He didn't hesitate and immediately began to fuse with this mysterious third divine path light. He absorbed the divine path light bit by bit. As he expected, the original third divine path light voluntarily fused with this divine path light, and experienced a qualitative increase. If it could be said that it was only a stream before, then it was now a river. After the fusion, his psyche clearly increased by more than several times. Moreover, The breakthrough in his psyche also eliminated the aftereffects caused by using the forbidden technique. In the immortal land mountain, Jiang Xiu slowly opened his eyes. As he opened his eyes, a strong light slowly shone through. Suddenly, the intense light burst out, and the hair on both sides of his face fluttered in the wind. Intermediate deity. He was completely an intermediate deity. He stood up from the ground and swept his gaze over the mountain. He had absorbed the dragon fire and harvested most of the spiritual herbs and fruits on the mountain. It was time to go back. Chapter 340. Jiang Xiu went down the Fairyland Mountain. The sun and moon did not shine on the Fairyland Mountain, and it was dark. Now he finally felt the sunlight. He looked up, and the warm sunlight made him squint his eyes. It's been a long time. As far as the eye could see, there were ruins everywhere. Broken buildings were mottled, and the ground was barren. The surroundings were terrifyingly quiet. There was no sound at all. This was Harbin after the nuclear explosion. Jiang Xiu thought to himself. If it was him now, not only would he be able to carry the nuclear bomb to a safe distance, but his body would also not be damaged too much. The difference between the strength of a mid-level god and a low-level god was not just a multiplier, but a difference in the amount of power. The wind blowing from the sky was very warm. It was during the spring festival, and more than a year had passed. He estimated that the temperature should be 4 or 5 months. After walking for over an hour, they didn't see a single person, not even a single exotic beast. Hua country had probably chosen to give up on this place. That was one thing. But to think that even exotic beasts didn't want to live here. This place was probably very unsuitable for survival. This was not bad. He was naked now, with only a leaf hanging on his head. It would be quite embarrassing if he was seen by others. Based on the memory in his mind, he walked all the way out and finally arrived at the supply station where he met the tour guide Chen. His shabby jeep was still parked there. After entering the supply station, he found the suitcase that Cheng Lingsu had prepared for him before he went out. He found a set of clothes and put them on. It seemed that Liaodong was a disaster for Jiang Xiu. It was like that last time, and it was the same this time. He did not have a single cent on him, and he had lost his phone. However, this time, Jiang Xiu's strength had skyrocketed. He flew in the air and headed far away. It was quite tiring for him to fly by himself. After about an hour, he saw a city and immediately landed in it. The noise of the city returned to his ears. Tall buildings, dense crowds, and noisy car horns. The big screen in the square was broadcasting the news. No one paid attention to it, but Jiang Xiu listened carefully. He wanted to know what changes had happened in the world in the past year. Just as he had expected, the biological corporation had experienced a rapid development. Martial arts and the evolution of gods had become the mainstream of the current era. Divine manifestations, especially those with strong abilities, had all viewed themselves as gods. Their influence had skyrocketed, and to some extent, they had even surpassed the government. Other than that, there was also the rise of the major corporations, who had begun to hire their own armies. The world had completely changed compared to a year ago. Cathay was considered to be the country with the best control, while other countries were in complete chaos. Beasts, god manifestors, and ordinary people could be found everywhere in a single city. The news on TV was reporting that after Huadong province was occupied, many types of beasts had entered. It was as if they had turned into beasts and became tribes of various big beasts. The picture of the person who occupied Huadong province appeared clearly on TV. It was a white bird. A mysterious white bird. The beautiful female broadcaster actually addressed it as Mr. White. It's him. When he saw him, Jiang Xiu was slightly moved. It turned out to be Bai Zhuang, who had seen 100 birds worshipping the phoenix surround the sword light of heaven and earth on the plain that day. The female broadcaster on TV highly approved of Bai Zhuang. Huadong province was vast and mountainous, and there were even a few mountain ranges that had appeared inexplicably. However, millions of people had died during the outbreak, and there were still hundreds or even tens of millions of people living there. It was a bit like in other countries. The mountains were towering into the clouds, and apes and tigers were roaring. However, in the city, the train was still running, and the cars were still following the traffic lights. Not only did the number of skyscrapers not decrease, but more had been built in the past year. The efficiency was even higher than during peacetime, and the city was exceptionally prosperous. The broadcaster believed that Bai Zhuang's existence had played a decisive role. "Brother, can I borrow your phone to make a call?" The man looked at Jiang Xiu, who was pulling a suitcase in his hand. He seemed to be a foreigner. "What's wrong with this? Are you here to visit a friend or family? Did you lose your phone?" "Yes, can I borrow your phone to make a call?" The man saw that Jiang Xiu was handsome, had an extraordinary temperament, and was wearing expensive clothes. He took out his phone and said, "Make a call." "Thank you." Jiang Xiu took the phone and called Nangong Ko right away. The scene of Miss Ko, crying her heart out, was still in his mind. If she knew that he was still alive, she would be very happy. The voice on the phone said, "Sorry, the number you dialed is not in service." Did I remember it wrong? That was impossible. He checked the phone number. Yes, it was this number. Unwilling to give up, he dialed it again, but the result was the same. The number he dialed was not in service. He thought to himself, did Miss Ko cancel the number? "What's wrong, bro? I can't get through, I'll change another number." After the last lesson, Jiang Xiu especially memorized the phone numbers of the mothers of several important figures. This time he changed it to his mother Lin Yueling's number. However, after dialing it, he still couldn't get through. Then Jiang Xiu dialed Wang Xintong's number, but it was still empty. "Why can't I get through?" Jiang Xiu was surprised. It was normal that he couldn't get through to one person, but why couldn't he get through to 3 people? "Bro, are you done with the phone? I have something else to do." Jiang Xiu had no choice but to hand the phone back to the big brother. He muttered a word of thanks. The man took the phone and wanted to say something, but Jiang Xiu didn't get through. So he gave up and left. Let's go back. With Jiang Xiu's ability, it wasn't difficult for him to take a free high-speed train. He pulled his suitcase and wanted to go to the train station, but he didn't know where it was. He saw a pawn shop on the street ahead of him, so he pawned his suitcase and his clothes for 300 yuan. He went to a noodle shop by the roadside and ate 2 big bowls of ramen. After filling his stomach, he took a taxi to the train station. There was an advertisement in the car, 20% off for spiritualists. Jiang Xiu thought to himself that there was such an operation. God discoverers had such a high social status. "Master, is this advertisement real or fake? Can God discoverers really get a 20% discount?" The driver said, "Of course it's true. Are you a spiritualist?" Spiritualists weren't people who could be found easily. When Nangong Ko-er's family was doing research, the ratio of spiritualists was 1 in 100,000, or even close to 1,000,000. This meant that there was only one spiritualist in 1,000,000 people. Based on this ratio, there were only a few million spiritualists in China. Spiritualists often liked to group together. Birds of a feather flocked together, so it was rare to see a spiritualist on the street. "If you're a spiritualist, I'll pull this train for free." "Really?" "Of course. Are you a spiritualist?" "How can I prove that I'm a spiritualist?" He couldn't ask the driver to stop the car and show him a set of moves. "You can condense ice, play with fire, or anything." The driver turned to look at Jiang Xiu expectantly. Jiang Xiu's face was as perfect as a sculpture, and his eyes were as deep as the abyss. If it was just his appearance, it was really extraordinary. Because of this, he had some expectations. Jiang Xiu smiled and shook his head. "Tizke." Jiang Xiu said, "Brother driver, I want to ask you something. Have you heard of Tianqing Biology Group?" The driver said, "I've heard of Tianqing Biology Group. They used to be quite famous, but they're not anymore. The better ones now are Pantheon Biology Group, Ares Biology Group, Ancient Biology Group, Preaching Biology Group." Jiang Xiu said, "Why is Tianqing Biology Group suddenly not doing well?" The driver said, "You don't even know this?" The strong person behind Tianqing Biology Group was Jiang Luoxia, who was known as the strongest person in China. On the day of the disaster, Jiang Luoxia rushed into the sky with a nuclear bomb and sacrificed himself to save tens of thousands of people in Harbin. as well as the residents in the surrounding towns. Without Jiang Luoxia, Tianqing Biology Group lost their biggest support. At first, many big shots remembered Jiang Luoxia's achievements and gave him some support. However, as time passed, Jiang Luoxia was gradually forgotten, and Tianqing Biology Group was not doing well. Jiang Xiu's gaze fell outside the window. The scenery had not changed much compared to a year ago, but he had a feeling that things had changed. He did not care much about Tianqing Biology. His ambition had never been there. The good or bad of Tianqing Biology Group would directly affect his parents' situation and Cheng Lingren's safety. The train station was in front. Jiang Xiu planned to go to the imperial capital to find Cheng Lingren first. The driver said that the students still went to class as usual, and there were very few people who were found to be gods. Those who found out would leave the campus, and the others would live their lives as usual. Chapter 341. When they arrived at the train station, there was actually a special passage for divine discoverers. It seemed that divine discoverers had special privileges everywhere. Jiang Xiu turned into a cloud of smoke as he walked and entered the train station. He directly boarded a train heading to the capital. When Jiang Xiu was around, of course, no one dared to make things difficult for the Skyline Biology Group, much less touch his parents. But when he flew into the sky with a nuclear bomb, everyone thought that he was dead. Who would still be afraid of Jiang Luoxia? Could a dead person jump out and settle accounts with them? He was very cold. He had lived for 3,000 years in vain, and had experienced countless life and death separations. Especially after experiencing such a tragic life in his previous life, he was used to it. However, his eyes flashed with a terrifying ominous glint. Those who dared to offend the Jiang family would have their entire family wiped out. "Handsome, is this seat yours?" A voice sounded in his ear. It was a voluptuous woman in her 30s. She was quite pretty and wore very heavy makeup. The fragrance she exuded was also very strong. She was holding a ticket in her hand. Jiang Xiu realized that he might have sat in her seat. He smiled awkwardly and said, I might have made a mistake." "It's okay." The woman reached out and pressed down on Jiang Xiu's shoulder. "Sit, you can sit here. My seat is next to yours." It was fine to press down, but what was the point of being gentle? Jiang Xiu felt like he was being taken advantage of. The heart of a young girl in spiritual cultivation was very sensitive, especially when the voluptuous woman stared at his face with fiery eyes. "Handsome, I'm Lin Yin. You can call me Sister Yin. What's your name?" Jiang Xiu said. "Jiang Xiu. Little Jiang, you're so good-looking. Where are you from?" Lin Yin's mouth didn't stop. She pressed down on Jiang Xiu's hand. After Jiang Xiu broke free, she put her hand on Jiang Xiu's thigh. It was fine if she put her hand on him, but what was the point of making circles with her finger? Her spiritual cultivation was in deep trouble all the way. Xiaojiang went to the capital to look for a job. In Lin Yun's eyes, Jiang Xiu must be from the capital floating clan. Jiang Xiu didn't buy a ticket at all. If he couldn't even afford a ticket, his family must be poor. Of course, he wanted to develop somewhere in the capital. The housing prices in the imperial capital are really amazing now. It's already 50,000 yuan per square meter. Renting a house in the basement costs a few thousand yuan per month. It's simply impossible to survive. Lin Yun spoke with assurance. Sister Yin is lucky. She earned some money from selling clothes and bought 2 houses in the capital a few years ago. She also has her own clothing company. How about it? Are you interested in working at Sister Yin's company? It won't be too hard. Just sit in front of the computer. Sister Yin will also provide you with food and accommodation. Your monthly salary will be 10,000 yuan. How was this an invitation for a job? It was obvious that they were going to take Jiang Xiu for themselves. Jiang Xiu really didn't know how to respond. "Xiao Jiang, what do you think of Sister Yin's appearance? Let me tell you, there are many people chasing after Sister Yin." The demon's hand landed on Jiang Xiu's thigh again. Jiang Xiu looked like he had nothing to live for. "Didn't I just sit in your seat? I was touched and taken advantage of by you. Do I still have dignity? Can you be good with Sister Yin? Sister Yin wants you." Damn it, completely undisguised. If Jiang Xiu had a knife in his hand, he probably couldn't help but stab her. I'm married, I have a wife. In his heart, he was thinking that more than a year had passed. Would Cheng Lingsu remarry? Thinking of this, he was actually a little excited. It would be best if she remarried. Then he thought of Zhuo Yuchen. He didn't know how she was. She was forced by her family. He was afraid that she had already remarried. No matter what, Jiang Xiu didn't want to marry them. After remarrying, he finally had a chance to pursue Qing Lingran again. You're married at such a young age? Your wife is too useless. She let you go to the capital to work alone. Listen to Sister Yin. When you go back, divorce her. The most important thing for a man is to marry a wife. That's equivalent to a second reincarnation. The first time you didn't have a choice. The second time, you have to open your eyes wide and choose carefully. Lin Yan wanted to swallow Jiang Xiu in one gulp. Not to mention her, the passers-by couldn't help but take another look at him. He was too perfect. His face was as three-dimensional as the golden ratio. Even the most outstanding sculptor couldn't do it. He was like a perfect god in ancient mythology. Halfway through the stop, a man came up. It was a man in his 40s. He came to Lin Yan's seat. It turned out that the empty seat beside her was this man's. Miss, you're sitting in my seat. Lin Yan said. What are you calling me? I'll sit in this seat. How much is it? I'll give it to you. The man said. Do you think there's still an empty seat in this carriage? Lin Yan said. Is 1,000 enough? She took out a stack of 100 yuan notes from her wallet and slapped it on the table. So what if you're rich? I won't let you. Lin Yan went to the capital alone at the age of 16 to make a living. She also had a shrewish personality. Then I'll sit here too. Let's waste time and see who can waste more time. The man was carrying a briefcase in his hand. He should be a refined person. He didn't quarrel with Lin Yan anymore. He turned around and left. Not long after, he called the train police. 2 tickets. This time they poked a hornet's nest. Lin Yan said. Why do you have to check just because you say so? Jiang Xiu quickly stood up and walked out. I'm sorry, I'm the one who took the seat. Sister Yun, you don't have to quarrel with the police officer for me. I'll give up my seat. Little Jiang. Lin Yun had taken a fancy to such a handsome guy today. When she was young, she had spent all her time working hard. Now that she finally had some money, she wanted to enjoy life. It wasn't easy for her to pretend to be handsome and polite. How could she let go of it so easily? Wait. Lin Yun didn't stop him, but the train police stopped Jiang Xiu. Where's your ticket? Well, you can hide for a while, but you can't hide forever. My ticket. Jiang Xiu pretended to look for it on his body. I can't find it. Why don't I make up for it? He still had more than 200 yuan in his pocket. It was enough to make up for it. You're sitting in someone else's seat, and now you don't have a ticket. I think you're serious about evading the ticket. The train police had been working for so many years. They could be said to have sharp eyes. They saw through Jiang Xiu's trick at a glance. Jiang Xiu said, I really lost it. You lost it, right? It's okay, you can make it up. It's all computerized sports fields now. Give me your ID card. I can print out the ticket after scanning it. Jiang Xiu was dumbfounded. He was embarrassed. He could only say, I lost my ID card. Come with me. Jiang Xiu pointed at the advertisement on the train. Isn't it written there that it's free for immortals? The train police said, that won't do. You're still an immortal. Stop playing tricks. Come with me obediently. Your actions are very suspicious. You don't believe me? The train police said. What do you think? Are you messing around with the police uncle? Lin Yan interrupted and said, Little Jiang, there's nothing to worry about. How about Big Sister Yin accompany you? It's just not buying a ticket. What's the big deal? At most, you'll be fined and educated. She was going all out. Jiang Xiu was in trouble now. If she helped him, this little handsome brother would be grateful to her. A young man in his 20s. If he went out, whoever treated him well, he would follow them. But you have Big Sister Yin. Wang. Jiang Xiu stretched out his right hand. A flame suddenly appeared and burned fiercely. Immortal, immortal. Immortal. The train police opened his eyes wide in shock. Oh my God. Lin Yun covered her mouth. Her face was filled with disbelief. Now you believe me? The train police desperately nodded. Mr. Immortal. Why didn't you say so earlier? There are special seats for immortals on the train. It's even more comfortable than first class. I'll take you there. There was such a thing. If he knew it would be like this, he would have revealed his identity earlier. Seeing Jiang Xiu leave, Lin Yun softly called out to little Jiang. However, she did not continue. That was an immortal. Immortals were so rare. If they wanted to earn money, it would be very easy. How could he be interested in the little money she gave him? She felt a wave of disappointment in her heart. If only he was an ordinary person. However, he looked like a god. As expected, he was not an ordinary person. 6 hours later, the train arrived at the capital. Jiang Xiu stopped a car. This time he did not say that he was an immortal. According to the train police, immortals could go to the local police station to apply for an immortal certificate. That thing was very useful. Returning home in the capital, Jiang Xiu's heart tightened. The villa was sold and another family moved in. Jiang Xiu asked the new owner. The villa was bought at the end of last year. It had been a few months. According to her description, the buyer should be Lin Yueling. He specially went to Wang Xintong's house. Wang Xintong's house was also sold. Chapter 342. Logically speaking, she shouldn't be short of money, but now she even sold her house. He guessed that Wang Xintong should have lost her power. She was originally just an ordinary disciple of the Wang family, and he was the one who forced her to ascend to the heavens. The Wang family thought that he was dead, so of course they would fight back. After all, he was the one who pushed the head of the Wang family, Wang Xuehai, off the plane and fell to his death. He was also the one who killed the demigod of the Wang family. The property was also snatched from the Wang family. A large part of Jiang Xiu's property was obtained from other places, including the Jiang family's money bag, the Jinjin group, but the Wang family would definitely take it all. However, this was also a piece of good news. It had been more than a year since the incident, and Lin Yueling only sold the house at the end of last year, which meant that their lives were still safe. It was good that they were fine. Money could be earned again. He was finally relieved, but he still had to find Cheng Lingran and ask her about the details. After leaving the villa area, he stopped a taxi and went to the capital. The school was still the same as before. It was filled with a strong academic atmosphere, and the students were still laughing. So handsome. He's really too handsome. The godlike Jiang Xiu attracted the attention of countless girls, and he realized that his appearance was too conspicuous. The current Jiang Xiu was different from before when he was deified. At that time, Jiang Xiu was completely flawless, but now he was even more perfect. People would be deeply attracted by the golden ratio. His appearance and body revealed a kind of difficult mystery of heaven and earth, making it difficult for people to look away. As he walked, he slowly changed back to the appearance of the former Jiang Xiu. Excuse me, is Cheng Lingran here? Jiang Xiu found Cheng Lingran's former best friends. You are. Oh, I remember, you are Cheng Lingran's best friend. The girl named Bai Fei still remembered Jiang Xiu. Although more than a year had passed, he was the only boy that Cheng Lingran liked. Not to mention, the school belle poured feces on him later. Jiang Xiu was very happy to be called best friend. Yes, is Cheng Lingran here? Don't you know? What's the matter? Cheng Lingran transferred schools back to Jiangnan. Back then, the world was not stable, and people were anxious. The transportation was not convenient. Her family was worried about her safety, so they transferred her back to her hometown. There were many students who dropped out last year, and many of them left when they found out that they were God discoverers. Why? Didn't Cheng Lingran tell you? Bai Fei was a little surprised. Back then, it was indeed not safe. The defenses of the big cities were strong, but China was huge, and there were many towns that could not be taken care of. The high-speed rail was often attacked by exotic beasts, and there were birds in the sky. Planes were banned from flying. The situation back then was very bad, so it was understandable that Cheng Lingran transferred schools. No, thank you. After bidding farewell to Bai Fei, Jiang Xiu transferred to his archaeology department. He also went to visit his old classmate, Bai Yinru. Zheng Luan was found to be a god discoverer and dropped out of school. Zhou Jin and Zhang Yiwei were still there. However, the world had changed, and archaeology existed in name only. The school basically did not organize it. Most of the students were spontaneous, and the school was not responsible for it. It was too dangerous to go out and do archaeology now. Jiang Xiu, where did you go? We thought you did it. Zhou Jin was very excited when he saw Jiang Xiu. Bah, don't jinx it. Zhang Yiwei was a little sensitive. It was no wonder. According to incomplete statistics, more than 100 million people died last year, and half of them were in China. Zhang Yiwei also lost a lot of family and friends. In times of peace, this was a joke. But now, it sounded like a curse. And it was the truth. Jiang Xiu almost died. Are you still going to school? I think the school still has your student record. You should be able to re-enter the school after you explain the situation to the Academic Affairs Office. After all, the situation last year was very special. Zhou Jin still hoped that Jiang Xiu could stay. Jiang Xiu shook his head. I have to go back to Jiangnan as soon as possible. Brother, we'll meet again if fate wills it. If you have the chance, come to Jiangnan to look for me. Jiang Xiu could not leave his phone number or address. He did not know the situation at home. Okay. After leaving the capital university, Jiang Xiu went to Cathay University to look for Cheng Lingsu. Unlike Cheng Lingsu and her sister, she was more rebellious and independent. She might not listen to her family. When he went to Cathay University, Cheng Lingsu also dropped out. They're really back in Jiangnan. Those in Jiangnan went back, but those in the capital should still be there. Jiang Xiu planned to look for Zui Yuchen and Nangong Ko. These two should be in the capital as well. Nangong Ko had told him not to look for her rashly because their relationship could not be exposed. So Jiang Xiu went to look for Zui Yuchen first, but Qingyu Entertainment had already moved out. He had no choice but to break his promise with Nangong Ko and go to the Nangong family. Jiang Xiu had been to the Nangong family's house once, so he naturally remembered the way. The iron gate of the huge villa was tightly locked. Jiang Xiu went to press the doorbell. Thinking of Nangong Ko'er's charm, he felt a burning sensation in his heart. So he pressed the doorbell a little more urgently. The person who opened the door was an old man who looked like a servant. Who are you looking for? Jiang Xiu said. I'm looking for Nangong Ko'er. Is she here? The old man looked at Jiang Xiu. At this moment, Jiang Xiu had turned into an ordinary person. He said, I don't know the details. Why don't you come in and have a seat first, and I'll ask the master and madam. Jiang Xiu said, It's better not to disturb uncle and aunt. I'll go directly to Miss Ko'er. Although the old man was surprised, he didn't take it seriously. It was not strange that young people didn't want to see their elders. Okay, wait a moment, and I'll ask Aunt Wu. The old man invited Jiang Xiu into the courtyard and asked him to wait for a moment. Then he went to find Aunt Wu. Nangong Ko'er was not at home, perhaps because the weather was bad. Do you want to see my master? Jiang Xiu shook his head. Since Miss Nangong is not here, I won't disturb you. When he turned to leave, he stopped and said, By the way, my name is Jiang Xiu. If Miss Nangong comes back, please tell her that I'm not dead and that I'm back. The old man said, Jiang Xiu. Okay, I'll keep it in mind. After all, this was not Jiang Xiu's home. He went to the airport on the same day. In order to avoid the awkwardness in the car happening again, Jiang Xiu sat on the back of the plane this time. He let the white clouds whiz by on both sides. When he was tired halfway through, he even took a nap on the back of the plane. In the evening, the plane landed at the airport of Jiang City. He went to the wetland villa first. The villa was sold, so he went to the dormitory of the government of Jiang City. After all, his father, Jiang Yi, was the third most important person in the government. It was almost dinner time. A man was coming back with a briefcase. When he passed by Jiang Xiu, his face suddenly froze. That man. Why does he look so familiar? Is he? His eyes suddenly widened. Jiang Yi's dead son? No, that's impossible. Isn't he dead? But it was too similar. They were exactly the same. Could it be that he was not dead? The middle-aged man couldn't help but tremble at the thought. 2 years ago in Jiangnan, Mr. Jiang was very famous. The whole Jiangnan was under his control. Even the top nobles in the Jiangnan frontier were obedient to him. He was an official of Jiang City and lived in the second building. How could he not know Mr. Jiang? Mr. Jiang, you're back? Jiang Xiu went back to Jiang Yi's dormitory and knocked on the door. An unfamiliar woman's voice came from inside. A woman in her 50s opened the door. Jiang Xiu didn't know her. Who are you looking for? Is this Jiang Yi's house? The woman shook her head. Then she suddenly remembered something and said, Oh, you mean the former Deputy Secretary Jiang of Jiang City? He moved away a long time ago. This was the third building. It was specially designed for Jiang City's clerks. There was only one possibility for him to move away. It was a transfer. Excuse me, where did he move to? The woman said. This? Oh, right. Who are you to him? Jiang Xiu said. I'm Jiang Yi's son. The woman didn't know that the man in front of her was Mr. Jiang, who had dominated Jiangnan for more than a year. The woman shook her head and said, I don't know. You can ask around. Jiang Xiu frowned. He had no choice but to turn and leave. As soon as Jiang Xiu left, the man with the briefcase rushed out. Did he say who he is? I think his name is Jiang Xiu. He said he's Jiang Yi's son. The man with the briefcase changed his expression. It's really him. Oh no, something big is going to happen. Something big is going to happen in Jiangnan. Chapter 343. The middle-aged man was the current secretary of Jiangqing Shu. His surname was Chun. The woman asked in surprise, Secretary Chun, what's wrong? What's going on? Secretary Chun was about to explain the situation, but he thought that the woman in front of him was just an ignorant woman. She wouldn't understand even if he explained it to her. He immediately turned around and left. He had to report this matter to his master as soon as possible. What? Jiang Luoxia is back. Did you see wrongly? Didn't he die in Harbin more than a year ago? Jiang Qingshu's expression changed drastically. His heart was in turmoil. It's absolutely true. He even found Jiang Yi's house. Doesn't that mean that the Jiang family is going to rise again? Jiang Qingshu was shocked. Not only Jiangqing City, but the entire Jiangnan was going to be shaken. How could this be? Didn't they say that he rushed into the sky with a nuclear bomb? How could he not die? What happened that day was too big. The Chinese government couldn't hide the fact that nuclear weapons were used. At first, the Jiang family still had some expectations for Jiang Xiu's return. After all, it wasn't unprecedented for someone to survive a nuclear bomb. Those who were hostile to the Jiang family didn't do anything. However, as time passed and Jiang Xiu didn't appear, people began to believe it. Jiang Luoxia was really dead. The Chinese government held a memorial service for Jiang Luoxia and promoted Jiang Luoxia's deeds. However, this didn't save the Jiang family. The Jiang family began to suffer. The Jiang family was at its peak and had unprecedented power in Jiangnan. However, the speed of its decline was also unprecedented. It soared like a rocket and collapsed like a skyscraper. Jiang Xiu had offended so many people that even Jiang Yi, who was an official in Jiangqing City, couldn't stand it and was forced to step down. Jiangqing Shu was one of the masterminds. At that time, he agreed without thinking. However, he didn't expect that after more than a year, Jiang Luoxia, who was known as the most powerful person in the Jiang family, would return. What should we do? Will we? What are you panicking for? We're just following orders. Even if the sky falls, there'll be someone tall to hold it up. At the same time, Jiang Xiu walked out of the number 3 courtyard and asked some staff members of the municipal government. They said that Jiang Yi had resigned, but they didn't know where he was. Since there was no response, Jiang Xiu went to the Cheng clan. Jiang Xiu had been to the Cheng family's house once during the Lunar New Year 2 years ago, so he could still recognize it. When he arrived, he could hear the noise inside through the wall. It's all because of that brat from the Jiang family that our Cheng clan is in such a difficult situation. It was Sun Xiaohong's voice. Jiang Xiu couldn't help but furrow his brows. Mr. Jiang, He was so arrogant and didn't give face to anyone. The whole of Jiangnan was because of his big mouth. Now that he's dead, it's good that he's dead. He caused his father to lose his official position and caused our Cheng clan to struggle. Now we even have to mortgage this villa. Do you want us to go back to that shabby old house? Cheng Hanlin didn't say a word. His body had basically recovered. He said, when you had minor repairs, you were also in the limelight. At that time, even Jiang Qingshu had to bow to you. Your friends didn't even try to coax you. Sun Xiaohong said. I've seen through him now. That brat was just a dabbler. I couldn't enjoy his good fortune, and was harmed by him again and again. This time, he might as well just die outside. If we mortgage this villa, will it solve the company's problem? Cheng Hanlin sighed. If the villa can be sold, of course it won't be a problem. But now, we're being pressured not to sell it. In other words, it might not be useful even if we mortgage the villa. Jiang Xiu, that bastard. My Cheng family was ruined by him. Sun Xiaohong thought of the days when she went bankrupt and cried. Jiang Xiu's face was cold as he listened quietly. If you ask me, we should draw a clear line with the Jiang family. The reason why Jiangnan City is suppressing the Cheng clan is definitely not because of our Cheng family. It can only be because of that brat Jiang Xiu. That's not good. Brother Yi has already lost his son and his official position. If we draw a clear line with them, won't we be driving them to a dead end? Cheng Hanlin couldn't bear it. Ding dong. As they were talking, the doorbell suddenly rang. Who is it? The Cheng family was very surprised. Originally, they hired a servant, but now even the servant was fired. Sun Xiaohong was worried that it was a debt collector, so she asked Cheng Hanlin to accompany her to open the door. Who? Cheng Hanlin opened the door and looked inside. His eyes froze and his words stopped in his mouth. Sun Xiaohong behind him suddenly covered her mouth and looked at the person in front of her in disbelief. What? We haven't seen each other for more than a year. Don't you recognize me? The voice was slightly cold, and there was a hint of banter in it. You. Cheng Hanlin trembled with excitement and couldn't say a word. Looking at this ordinary dressed, handsome young man with deep eyes, who exuded a murderous aura in the dim night, wasn't he his son-in-law who died more than a year ago? Minor repairs. Sun Xiaohong's face changed instantly. You're still alive, my son-in-law. That's great. Her tears fell down. If it weren't for Jiang Xiu's amazing hearing and hearing her words in the yard, he would really think that she missed him so much. That's great. Without you, the house was in a mess. Those people, you can't let them go. You don't know how badly they bullied us. Cheng Hanlin said. Why are you talking about this? It's good that you're back. Come on. Jiang Xiu shook his head and said, I won't go in. I can't teach them a lesson. Although my life is saved, my injuries are too serious. All my cultivation is gone. Not to mention those martial arts masters. I may not even be able to beat a 3-year-old child. Sun Xiaohong widened her eyes and looked Jiang Xiu up and down. Unwilling to give up, she asked, How did you lose your cultivation? Jiang Xiu said, In order to survive, I exploded my spirit. I'm here to ask, where are my parents now? Sun Xiaohong said, Your parents, they're living back at Yunhu Street. Oh. After saying that, Jiang Xiu turned and left. However, he was limping and couldn't even walk properly. Sun Xiaohong saw this and had a strange expression on her face. She looked at Cheng Hanlin. Cheng Hanlin sighed. It wasn't easy to survive a nuclear bomb. It was fortunate that he was limping. He estimated that Jiang Xiu must have found a place to recuperate this year, and could only come back now. He became a cripple and even limped. This he might as well die outside. Why did he come back? Cheng Hanlin said, Brother Yi and sister-in-law only have one son. Even if he's crippled, at least he's still alive. What about Susu? If Susu dies, she can still find another one. She's so beautiful and so young. Is she going to have to live with such a burden? Jiang Xiu returned to Yunhu Street. It was still as lively as before. There were many snack stalls, barbecue stalls, and food stalls. Not far away, he saw the familiar fruit stall. It was open again. Lin Yueling was busy inside. Jiang Yi was also inside. He was watching the small television. It was news time now. He was always paying attention to the current situation. When she raised her head, Lin Yueling was stunned. Her haggard face was a little red under the light of the 50-watt light bulb, and there were a lot of white strands in her hair. The death of her only son had caused her great pain, but life still had to go on. But at this moment she was stunned. She stood there in a daze, and tears kept falling from her eyes. She looked at Jiang Xiu. She felt like she was dreaming. It must be an illusion. But she saw Jiang Xiu limping over. Minor repairs. Jiang Yi heard and looked over. When he saw Jiang Xiu walking over, he quickly rushed out. Minor repairs. It's really you. Dad, Mom, I'm back. Jiang Xiu's face showed a faint smile. Son. Lin Yueling shouted. She hugged Jiang Xiu. She wanted to ask how his leg was, but it was great news that her son could come back. You're not dead. Mom said you wouldn't die, because I gave birth to you. Mom knows best whether you're dead or not. Jiang Yi's dull personality couldn't help but cry at this moment. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. The news of Jiang Xiu's return spread like the wind in Rivertown. Some were happy, some were sad, and some were frightened. Minor repairs. Where have you been for more than a year? What happened? Jiang Xiu said. I was seriously injured. I could only recuperate on the spot. Chapter 344. Jiang Yi also noticed that Jiang Xiu seemed to be crippled. Although his heart ached, nothing was more important than his son's safe return. He said, since you lost your cultivation, then let it be. It's also good to be an ordinary person. Jiang Xiu nodded. Lin Yueling said, Son, have you eaten? You can chat with your father for a while. Mom will go buy you something to eat. I'll be back soon. After saying this, she opened the iron box with the money. There was only a red note inside. After hesitating for a moment, she took it out and went to buy supper. In just 2 years, the Jiang family had experienced great ups and downs. Fortunately, no one died, and the family of 3 was still intact. This should be the happiest thing. That night, Jiang Yi and Lin Yueling both drank. Jiang Yi patted Jiang Xiu's shoulder and comforted him. Son, you've also been rich before. Don't take it too seriously. Back then, Jiang Xiu had relied on his cultivation base to make a name for himself. Now that he had lost his cultivation base and had made so many enemies, it was impossible for him to make a name for himself. In Jiang Yi's opinion, being able to live a peaceful life in this corner was something he had earned. But he also knew that his son, who had been prosperous for a time, would feel a huge drop in his heart, and even find it hard to accept. Jiang Xiu still nodded. That night, even the supper shops in the night market were closed. A Volkswagen drove over. The sensitive Jiang Xiu slept on the spring bed on the balcony. He used to sleep like this in high school. He couldn't help but sit up. He opened the door and went downstairs. A tall and beautiful figure got out of the car. Jiang Xiu was all too familiar with this figure. It was Wang Xintong, who was good at dancing with red sleeves. Under the dim light, on the dirty street, in the silent night, Wang Xintong looked at the man in front of her. Her eyes reddened, and her heart was filled with all kinds of feelings. There was doubt, resentment, joy, and when the news of Jiang Xiu's death by a nuclear bomb came, Wang Xintong felt that the sky had collapsed and her whole body was torn apart. She was reluctant to part with her wealth, but she was even more reluctant to part with her obsession with Jiang Xiu. Since that night dance that destroyed her self-esteem, she had fallen deeply into her obsession with Jiang Xiu. For more than a year, she seemed to have lived in hell. Jiang Xiu smiled at her and took the initiative to walk towards her. This was the most Jiang Xiu had ever been to her. Wang Xintong smiled proudly. The whole world was saying that Jiang Xiu was dead, but she believed that Jiang Xiu was definitely not dead. But in the next moment, her eyes widened. She saw Jiang Xiu limping over. Boom, her brain exploded. He was limping. Jiang Xiu smiled faintly. I wasn't asleep. I heard the sound of a car downstairs. I guessed it was you. Thank you for coming to see me. Wang Xintong looked at Jiang Xiu, and her eyes showed some confusion. Jiang Xiu's smile was full of bitterness. In order to survive the nuclear bomb, I exploded my divine essence. Although I saved my life, I lost my cultivation and one of my legs. He knocked on that inconvenient leg. Wang Xintong covered her mouth. She finally understood why Jiang Xiu would suddenly be so polite to her. Jiang Xiu's tone towards her had always been cold and aloof, as if she was his slave. Just now, he had taken the initiative to walk over, and even used a friendly tone to thank her. That was because he had lost his right to be aloof. The man who seemed to be standing at the top of the sky lowered his head. Even when he patted his disabled leg, Wang Xintong felt his inferiority complex. How could this be? The tears in her eyes slid down silently. Jiang Xiu said. It's already good to be able to survive the nuclear bomb. There's nothing bad about it now. It's still alive. It's not bad here. It's very quiet. Wang Xintong couldn't accept this fact. She kept shaking her head, and tears kept falling. Thank you for coming to see me. My house is small and I don't have a place to entertain you. Go back. Don't come again, Wang Xintong said. Jiang Xiu, don't say such things. I know you're sad. For more than a year, I've been waiting for you to come back every day. I even learned a few new dances. Can I dance for you? Jiang Xiu looked at Wang Xintong, whose face was full of tears, and turned around sadly. He really hoped that Wang Xintong was someone like Sun Xiaohong. Unfortunately, she wasn't. Jiang Xiu couldn't bear to hurt her anymore. He turned around and walked home. I'm not worthy anymore. No, Wang Xintong screamed at the top of her lungs. You're worthy. Only you're worthy in this world. However, Jiang Xiu's footsteps did not stop as he limped back. Jiang Xiu, Wang Xintong said. Are you blaming me for not protecting your assets? I tried my best. Shishu Sword Palace's Si Wuxia came. Dao Yutai appointed a new Jiangnan frontier. Jiangnan changed. The Wang family's elders took the opportunity to cause trouble. I lost control of the Wang family, and was powerless to reverse the situation. I could only hide the core power of the heavenly creatures in Mount Dongping. Jiang Xiu, I beg you, don't leave me behind. After the news of Jiang Xiu's return swept through Jiangnan like a hurricane, the news of Jiang Xiu's crippled leg also swept through like a hurricane, causing countless people to sigh. Those who were originally happy and excited were filled with disappointment, while those who were originally frightened heaved a sigh of relief. The next day, Jiang Yi and his wife woke up to work. However, Jiang Xiu was still sleeping on the wire bed on the balcony. He lived like a puddle of mud. The husband and wife were extremely worried when they saw this. They were afraid that Jiang Xiu would continue to be dispirited. Jiang Xiu slept in until noon. Someone knocked on the door. Who is it? Jiang Xiu was a little annoyed. He was sleeping soundly. His parents had the key, so it definitely wasn't them. However, the knocking continued. He had no choice but to get up and open the door. A beautiful girl stood outside the door. Her face was expressionless. Her eyes were looking directly at Jiang Xiu's feet. It's you. He turned around and limped to the wire bed on the balcony. Then he collapsed on it. I heard that you're crippled. You're even crippled. The person who came was none other than Jiang Xiu's wife, Lingsu. She was wearing a loose white top and a pair of tight jeans that tightly wrapped around her long legs. Jiang Xiu didn't respond. Get up. Don't sleep at mom and dad's place. Lingsu looked at the dispirited Jiang Xiu. His hair was as messy as a chicken's nest, and his eyes were hazy. He was a classic example of someone who had given up on himself. He was completely different from the aloof Mr. Jiang of the past. Instead, he reminded her of the submissive and self-abased Jiang Xiu in high school. Jiang Xiu said, Where else can I sleep if not here? Do you want me to sleep on the road? Lingsu said, You can't sleep here either. Come with me, please. She boldly lifted Jiang Xiu's quilt. If it was in the past, Su wouldn't have dared to do this. A trace of anger flashed through Jiang Xiu's heart. Was she going to reveal her true colors? Where are we going? Cut the crap. Lingsu's attitude was very tough. Jiang Xiu suppressed the anger in his heart. He had no choice but to get up, put on his clothes casually, and follow her out. He was still limping. After going downstairs, Lingsu greeted Lin Yueling and her husband. Then she opened her BMW and got in. Jiang Xiu sneered in his heart. Her parents were so poor, and the Chung family had mortgaged their villa, but she still drove a BMW. After getting in, Chung Lingsu said, "Be cleaner in the future. Don't dirty my car." Jiang Xiu replied timidly, "Oh." The car drove to a residential area in Jiang City. It was a house of about 140 square meters. She opened the door and walked in. "Change your shoes." Jiang Xiu obediently took off his shoes and changed into slippers. The decoration of the room was very simple. "You can live here in the future," Jiang Xiu said. "Whose house is this?" Chung Lingsu said, "My house. I bought this house. In the future, you can sleep here if you want to. There's an empty room over there, so you can sleep there. However, I'm not letting you live here for free. The house has to be cleaned every day. Also, you have to take care of my clothes. Oh, by the way, I'm the same as you. I don't like washing with a washing machine. I like to wash by hand." Jiang Xiu's face was full of bitterness. He sneered in his heart. "She actually wants to take revenge on me. She's really something. Su, where's the 100 million I gave you? You can return it to me. If you can't exchange it for 100 million, you can give me 10 million first." Chung Lingsu said disapprovingly, "I lost it all a long time ago." What a casual sentence. Jiang Xiu's eyes widened. "That's 100 million. You didn't ask me to return it when you gave it to me." Chung Lingsu reached out to untie the hair tie on her head, letting her long hair fall. "You only said that if I didn't come up, you would divorce. Do you want to divorce now?" She looked straight at Jiang Xiu. Chapter 345. She was controlling Jiang Xiu. "Weren't you awesome before? You tortured me and looked down on me. What about now?" Chung Lingsu felt as if they had returned to their high school days. Jiang Xiu had changed back into that submissive boy who had low self-esteem. She could do whatever she wanted to him, and everything was under her control. Seeing that Jiang Xiu avoided her eyes, Chung Lingsu continued to ask, "I'm asking you a question. I can't pay you back. Do you want to divorce me?" "What? You don't want to divorce me now?" Jiang Xiu pretended that he didn't hear her and changed the topic. "The decoration of this house is quite good." His uneasy look was just right, as if he was trying to avoid her question. Chung Lingsu pressed him step by step. "Didn't you want to divorce me all the time before? You forced me to take the initiative to divorce you. Why don't you want to divorce me now? Oh, I know. Now you have no cultivation and no money at home. You have become a fruit vendor. What's worse is that your leg is lame. If you divorce me, you won't be able to find a wife at all." Jiang Xiu was so ashamed that he wanted to crawl into a hole to hide his face. Clearly, Chung Lingsu was right. You don't have 100 million yuan, not even 10 million yuan. It depends on your performance. Wash your clothes clean and do a good job at home. If I'm in a good mood, I may give you 50 yuan to spend. 50 yuan. In this day and age, what else could a grown man do with 50 yuan? What? You think it's too much? Then 30 yuan. Jiang Xiu widened his eyes in anger. 20 yuan. Chung Lingsu reduced the amount without hesitation. At this moment, Jiang Xiu was like an ant in her hands. She had all the initiative. She could do whatever she wanted. Okay, 20 yuan. If she reduced it further, it would be 10 yuan or even a seat. He wouldn't even have enough money to buy a pack of cigarettes. After that, Jiang Xiu stood up and walked to the room Chung Lingsu pointed out. After taking 2 steps, she stopped and asked, "Where's big sister?" Chung Lingsu said, "I'm warning you, stay away from my sister. Don't have any ideas about my sister. It's not easy for her to earn money. Remember my words, or you'll have to bear the consequences." Jiang Xiu said, "I don't have any other intentions." She paused for a moment before continuing, "Does your sister know about my past?" Chung Lingsu pondered for a moment before saying, "I know. Everyone thought you were dead. You've been missing for more than a year. Of course I know. Why? Do you miss your glorious days?" Her gaze moved from Jiang Xiu's face to his lame leg. "Wake up. You're a cripple. You're a cripple now. No matter how impressive you were before, It's all in the past. Jiang Xiu's eyes flashed with a trace of sadness. I know. His voice was very soft, revealing a sense of powerlessness. He turned around, pushed open the door and walked in. However, at this moment, the sound of hurried footsteps could be heard from the door. The door wasn't closed. Cheng Lingren's voice could be heard. Su, where are the minor repairs? Is he really back? Jiang Xiu looked back. Cheng Lingran was still the same as before. Her entire person carried a gentle and quiet temperament. However, at this moment, she was a little emotional. Big sister. Her voice was a little shaky, and her expression was a little emotional. Cheng Lingren's beautiful face bloomed with a moving smile, revealing her white teeth. Her eyes were filled with tenderness that melted Jiang Xiu's heart. He felt so warm. Minor repairs. Cheng Lingran excitedly came in front of Jiang Xiu. Her gaze was fixed on Jiang Xiu. She was afraid that he would disappear in the next moment like this time. Her eyes were red. She wanted to throw herself into Jiang Xiu's arms, but she realized that it wasn't right. She tried hard to control her emotions. You scared us to death. We thought you were really. Cheng Lingsu said. Good people don't live long, but scourges live for thousands of years. How could he die so easily? Cheng Lingren's gaze fell on Jiang Xiu's leg. Your leg? Jiang Xiu smiled freely. It's lame. Take 2 steps. Take 2 steps for me to see. Cheng Lingren's red eyes silently shed tears. Jiang Xiu took a step. Cheng Lingran somewhat collapsed and pulled him and said, Don't walk. Jiang Xiu said, I'm fine. It's just a lame leg. It's nothing. Cheng Lingran returned to Jiangnan to study for a year in college. She got a bachelor's degree and entered the Cheng clan group. Now the Cheng clan's situation was very bad. They didn't allow to sell the building after it was built. They couldn't make a turnover at all. Minor repairs. Cheng Lingren's heart was very soft and emotional. She couldn't stop crying. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Cheng Lingsu couldn't bear to see Jiang Xiu acting pitiful in front of Cheng Lingran. She said angrily, Well, sister, you've seen him. I'll send you to work. I have something to say to you. Cheng Lingran nodded. She told Jiang Xiu a few words and left with Cheng Lingsu. Jiang Xiu could guess what Cheng Lingsu wanted to say to Cheng Lingran. It must be about the divorce. Not only Cheng Lingsu wanted to, but Sun Xiaohong also wanted them to divorce. In the next few days, Jiang Xiu lived like mud. After eating, he slept, and after sleeping, he ate. Cheng Lingsu asked him to wash the clothes, and he did so. Moreover, he was very unscrupulous. He even washed Cheng Lingsu's underwear. Instead, Cheng Lingsu called him a pervert. That night, Cheng Lingsu came back. She took a shower and dried her wet hair. The weather was getting warmer and warmer. Cheng Lingsu was wearing casual home clothes at home. They were a little thin. When the wind outside the window blew, the clothes would stick to her body, revealing her perfect curves. Cheng Lingsu didn't notice at first, but later, Cheng Lingsu found that Jiang Xiu's eyes were not right. They were evil. From time to time, he would look at her body with his eyes, and at very private parts such as breasts, buttocks, and other places. This made Cheng Lingsu's face turn cold. She looked at Jiang Xiu with more disdain and disgust. She knew that Jiang Xiu must have had many women in the past. But now, who would care about him? He was a poor and lame man like a pile of mud. She said fiercely, What are you looking at? Go and look at your little wife. Jiang Xiu lowered his head in self-abasement. Zui Yuchen had already cut off contact with Jiang Xiu's family. Maybe she couldn't find a way to contact them. After all, she couldn't come to Jiangnan and didn't know where Jiang Xiu's home was. Even if she knew, it was so troublesome for him to come back, let alone her. The other possibility was that she took the initiative to cut off contact. In short, she was gone. Cheng Lingsu went back to the house. She didn't want to stay with Jiang Xiu. That guy was so lucky. However, something happened that night. The night was very dark and quiet. Cheng Lingsu was sleeping soundly. The door was quietly pushed open by a shadow. A figure came in through the crack of the door. Cheng Lingsu didn't expect Jiang Xiu to be so bold. He dared to have designs on her even when he was like this, so the door wasn't locked. After Jiang Xiu pushed the door open, he came to Cheng Lingsu's side. Cheng Lingsu was sleeping on her side. Her curves were so attractive. Jiang Xiu leaned over. Like a pervert, he smelled the charming fragrance of her body with his nose. Jiang Xiu's breathing became heavier and heavier. He grabbed her breasts and pounced on her like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. Cheng Lingsu woke up from her dream and struggled hard. She could recognize Jiang Xiu from his breath. She found him kissing her domineeringly. She cursed, "Jiang Xiu, you bastard. How dare you do such a thing?" Jiang Xiu said, "You're my wife. You have to let me sleep with you." Cheng Lingsu suddenly pushed Jiang Xiu out. Jiang Xiu felt a powerful force attack him. His eyes flashed with surprise. This was far from the strength of a weak woman. Su Su was a spirit discoverer. He cried out in pain and fell to the ground. "Surname Jiang, I'm warning you. This is the first and last time. If you dare to touch me again, do you believe that I won't kill you?" Su Su's eyes emitted a terrifying silver light. Jiang Xiu fled in a sorry state. But in the next few days, the situation didn't erupt. There were family gatherings or anything. Cheng Lingsu also didn't mention this matter. Jiang Xiu decided to add fuel to the fire. On this day, Jiang Xiu took advantage of Cheng Lingsu's inattention and secretly stole more than 600 yuan from her purse. Cheng Lingsu naturally didn't check the purse. She just took it and went out. But when she drove the car to the gas station to fill up the gas, she found that the money in the purse was gone. She had just taken out the money. She immediately thought of Jiang Xiu. "Bastard, you're getting more and more shameless. How dare you steal my money?" Cheng Lingsu immediately turned back. The mud like Jiang Xiu wasn't at home. Cheng Lingsu was even more certain that Jiang Xiu took her money. You're tuning into the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.